closed captioning provided by Beaufort County.
Welcome to the Beaufort County Board of Education Business Meeting of November 2nd, 2021. This meeting is being conducted by a hybrid video conferencing, and it is also being live streamed by the county channel. Capacity in the Beaufort County School District Media Center is limited to 60 individuals. In order to comply with social distancing requirements, individuals must stay at least 3 feet apart and seating is on a first-come basis. Request for public comments participation will be accepted this evening between 5 and 5:30 by sending an email with your name, phone number, and topic to Robin, not Robin with a Y, .cushingberry@beaufort.k12.sc.us. You'll receive a phone call during public comments where you'll be able to speak and address the board for a maximum of 3 minutes on issues within the board's domain. The forum will be limited to 30 minutes. If you are in person, you may address the board for a maximum of 3 minutes on issues within the board's domain, and each speaker must complete a public comment card. Please see the board clerk for one of these cards. Requests for the second public comments will be accepted between 7 and 7:30 this evening in the same manner. The second public comments will take place prior to adjournment no later than 9 p.m. The second forum is limited to 15 minutes. In the event the board is not finished addressing all items listed in the November 2, 2021 agenda, the board will reconvene at 6 p.m. on November 3rd, 2021 to finish the agenda items. We now need a motion to go into executive session. Mr. Rich.
Thank you, Dr. Glatz. I move that we go into executive session for purposes of discussion of negotiations incident to proposed contractual lease agreement pursuant to South Carolina Code Annotated Section 30-4-782. Receipt of legal advice related to a contractual matter covered by the attorney-client privilege pursuant to South Carolina Code Annotated Section 30-4-782. Employment matter regarding personnel ratification report pursuant to South Carolina Code Annotated Section 30-4-781, adult and homeschool report pursuant to South Carolina Code Annotated Section 30-4-4084, and for receipt of legal advice related to pending claims and settled claims covered by the attorney-client privilege pursuant to South Carolina Code Annotated Section 30-4-782.
Thank you, Ms. Bitters. We have a second. Ms. Jovan.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Smith?
Madam Chair, before we go into vote, could you please clarify for everyone who will be advising the board on items C, D, as well as G?
C, Dr. Carr. That's the proposed contractual lease agreement.
For that item, we will have district staff and land consultant.
For which item?
Lease agreement.
For item D?
Andrew White. Then what was your next one?
You sound kind of jumbled up, Madam Chair. I was asking you what item he and who was he saying that it wasn't pretty clear who he said.
Dr. Rodriguez was referring to item C.
And who will be advising us on item C?
That was what Dr. Rodriguez answered.
Item C is district staff and land consultant.
Okay, Madam Chair, how about item C and D? Who will be advising us on that?
D, I answered Andrew White. Then what was your other question? Which other item?
Items C and D.
C and D, we've already entered C about 2 times already.
Okay, and also item D, a client attorney privileges pursuant to South Carolina Codes 34 to 70.
So D is in David,
Yes, ma'am.
for the 3rd time, Andrew White.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I have no further questions.
All
Oh,
right, you open?
Yes. Yes.
Look right there. Okay.
Yes.
Smith, yes. Madam Chair, did you hear me? I said yes.
You want to see if you heard it? Yes.
Yes, we do, thank you. Can you lower your hands too, please? Thank you. All right, the motion carries unanimously, 10-0-0. We have 1 member absent this evening. We will now go into executive session for the first item, which is the proposed contractual lease agreement.
All domestic animals in Beaufort County over 3 months of age must be licensed. This requires a rabies vaccination and a fee of $5 for 1 year or $15 for 3 years. Failure to license your pet is against the law. Avoid fines and penalties.
A message from Beaufort County Animal Shelter and Control. The shelter is always happy to accept donations of old blankets, towels, or pet toys.
Series. There's a smash to right field. That ball is way back. Gone. Nico Lang. So Beaufort County home run shot over the right field.
Business meeting of November 2, 2021. The board was just in executive session, but we did not finish all the items in executive session, so we'll have to complete the executive session at the end of the meeting, whether that be today or tomorrow, the next business day, if the agenda is not completed. And we do not have any motions coming out of executive session thus far. So we're now in public session. And we need a motion to approve the agenda. Ms. Dorett? I move we approve the agenda. Mr. Stringer?
Second that.
Any discussion?
Yep.
Mr. Smith?
I move that
on the consent agenda, which is
Which item?
Which item?
the 8.6.
So you're wanting to move that off the consent agenda?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, since we haven't voted yet on approving the agenda, we'll remove that and have that go, I guess, under board business, okay, if you want discussion. All right. Any other Discussion? Mr. Smith? Your hand's still up?
Oh, yeah, we're gonna figure it out right now.
Thank you. All right, motion, the voting is open to approve the agenda with removal of OB 8.6 from consent agenda and put on the board business. Voting is open.
Yes.
Yes, Robert. Mr. Smith?
Oh, yes, I received it.
Was your vote a yes?
Yeah, yeah, oh, yes. Have you sent it up?
Yes.
Sometimes you have to tap at the top where it says change vote, that's what happens to me on fairly regularly. We have the wrong.
It's not up there.
Display.
Oh, wow. On my thing it says. There.
Okay, let me do approve the agenda with removal of 8.6 from the consent agenda. Carries unanimously by 10 members, 1 member is absent. We will now stand for pledge of allegiance. Remain standing. We have 2 moments of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tonight we have a moment of silence for Kathy Monson, teacher assistant at Red Cedar Elementary School, who passed away on October 28th. And a moment of silence for Randy Crummy, who passed away on October 25th. Randy was the lead superintendent for MD Con Construction, and over the last 10+ years, Randy has overseen projects in every building within Beaufort County School District. His presence and dedication to the school district will be missed. The meeting was properly notified.
Recording in progress.
Tonight, Port Royal Elementary School 4th graders will be performing Count on Me under the direction of the music teacher Jordan Franks. Here with us tonight is the Port Royal Elementary principal, Vicki Gallup.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for allowing us to share our students with you tonight. In the month of October, our students at Port Royal have been learning how to be a buddy and not a bully. And this group of 4th graders wanted to do their own rendition of Count on Me by Bruda Mars to promote friendship. You'll notice that several are wearing camouflage during their Red Ribbon Week to represent their war against drugs. So please enjoy their first try at a virtual performance. Thank you all.
Goodbye. do, oh yeah. It's nothing burning, just can't fall asleep. I'll sing a song beside you. And you'll forget how much you mean to me. Every day I will remind you. Find out what we're made of. When we are falling out of me. You can count on me. Like 1, 2, 3, I'll be there. And I know when I need it, I can count on you. Like 4, 3, 2, you'll be there. 'Cause that's what we're supposed to do, oh yeah. You count on me, 'cause I can count on you.
Thank you kindly for your wonderful performance. We are now down to first public comments. We have some present that would like to speak, and we also have some who would like to speak virtually. I will just remind everybody that speaking, that your comments must be confined to the issues within the domain of the board. Please make comments with respect and civility to others. You will have 3 minutes to make your comments, and there will be a visible and audible timing device that is used, and you may not yield your time to another person. The first person to speak tonight will be Mary Boyd, and she'll be speaking about masks.
Good evening. My name is Mary Boyd. I went on the board's very
Stop.
As I was saying.
Go ahead. Hold on.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. Try again. Yes, ma'am. My name is Mary Boyd, and I am getting these feelings because the children are not, they have the honor of the mask. And we are wearing masks in here. What is always wearing a mask in here? And the kids don't wear them in school. I mean, that's a mixed feeling that you're sitting there wearing masks, but you don't want the kids to wear it. I mean, can we honestly say that has been considered more than insurance? If the kids wear the masks or not? I mean, I need that clarified today, and I would really appreciate someone to get back on that, because I don't like that it's okay for them to go to school and not mask, he said to get mask on. That's all. Thank you so much.
Yes,
Good evening, Dr. Chairman. I have a few issues that I need clarification. As far as I understand, evaluation includes COVID-19. The teacher performance evaluation and Dr. Rodriguez safely excluded academic performance. And who decided to do it? If I wasn't the same person to our teachers. Beaufort High. To my knowledge, two position at high school. One teacher teaches 5 classes, 32 students class. There's no subs available because of this classes are being unattended. Other times, students are just being placed in the library. As a parent of a Beaufort High School and a member of the community, I would like to know what is being done to resolve this issue. I would like to know if they're in the process of hiring new teachers, or this is how it's going to be for the rest of the year. As a parent, we deserve more communication from our school administration and our school board. Well, Branch Middle School. I need to help me clear up some confusion. I was told Well Branch Middle School after school, which is great. But this is where the part comes in. I understand it's only students who can achieve higher scores on tests and get extra help. And this will improve state report card. That is the focus. The state report card, not helping our children, but trying to improve our numbers. I hope that's not the way Dr. Rodriguez. Too many parents told that their children are not meeting the criteria because their children are too low. To me, those children need more and resources more than others. And if some of this is true, do you have other programs for the other children? Because not serving children that are low before under discrimination, right? Lunch. Beaufort County has 22,000 students in 99 schools. We have contracted with our children a healthy lunch and a balanced meal. I'm not quite sure if it, but that has happened. Children are sending pictures on their lunch and posting on social media. And let's just be honest. Some of those look like costs. Today look like cat food on one. prisons are served better than our children. What is being done to address this issue? Has anybody reached out to solve the issue? Parents are paying for this. You go to a restaurant, will you think that looks like the master with us, or will you complain? Thank you for your time.
Next up is Margaret, speaking about student at this point.
Good evening. My name is John Simmons. I'm a retired math educator in the school district of Beaufort. I have a couple of concerns. Number one, I'm concerned with the lack of achievement scores across the district. Particularly concerned about district. And I'm working with some good individuals to put together after-school programs. And I'm requesting the support of this district and funding in this district to assist in after-school programs for children. And hopefully we can close the gap and see some positive gains. Number two, we're talking about discipline. Discipline problems interfere with the education process. Know that. And there are a lot of harassment, bullying, drug, weapons, cell phones, technology issues going on in the school district. We need to take control of our buildings. It is our job to keep our young people safe and to educate them. We need to use the alternative education settings that we have in place to educate those who are able to follow the rules. Choices, whatever there is. The question has been posed many times. What is wrong with that child? I beg to differ. I think the question should be, what happened to that child? And I think what happened to that child is the adults in their life. All of us, all those other adults that just do what they want to do, and whatever. Do as I say, not as I do. That is no longer working. I think when we get it right, these children will get it right. Let's get it right. Time is now. Thank you.
Thank you. Our topic is for active October 9, 2021.
But that's good. I mean, Linda and Lloyd do. And I am on this. When my children were going to school, we had home. Yes, I am older and cool, but I have my children. I was visiting a school, high school last week, and the children was just peaceful. But when the hall monitors are there, they guide us, we need to bring the hall monitors in the school. Why did you take it out? That's a question. I voted that in 11 to the school. Lady Chair, I think it was on October 19th. I came to a meeting. And I really enjoyed the meeting. Mr. Campbell, it was decent and in order. Not saying that was not, but it moved more swiftly. And I said I would have to let you know how you'll get in your absence. I'm quite sure you probably saw it, but I commend you all because that's the longest I've ever been to a board meeting. So you continue to do the best. And another thing I want to go to realize, constituents got you on these seats. Any decision you all make concern us should not go in that road without it coming to us first. We put you there, and we'll put you out. And I'm not trying to be smart, but I don't need bodies sitting in a chair. I need working bodies who are on the phone to make things better for our children and to make us be peaceful at home till they come back. Thank you, and I appreciate the time that you give me.
Ms.
Commissioner, ready for the virtual public comments.
I'm trying to reach you. Answer.
Are there any others?
Okay,
Thank you.
Next
On our agenda, Chairman report.
Today, everyone see the board members is a packet, and this packet contains the evaluation form and job description of the board's executive assistant or board secretary. And the annual performance evaluation is conducted typically at the end of the calendar year. So if you flip today's agenda over, you'll see that it states that the evaluation instrument and job description is given to board members tonight. In 1 week, on November 9th, the board members will have returned their completed evaluation instrument to the board office no later than 5 p.m. on Tuesday, November 9th, as printed here on the agenda. After that, the board officers will schedule a time to meet with the board secretary to discuss the results and the evaluation. Next on our agenda, we have our committee reports. Our first report is operations, and the committee chair, Tricia Goodrich.
Thank you, Dr. Watts. We have several items to bring forward to the board this evening. The operations committee met for the second time in October, on October 26th at 1 o'clock, and we met for over 3 hours. So we're going to try to condense it down for everybody and not have the last 3 hours to report. The first two things we bring forward this evening will be ARSS 47, the individual healthcare plans, and ARE7, public information and communication. SS 47 is the second time that the Ops Committee has provided feedback regarding this AR. And so Ms. Cartledge will just go over the major points of revision or inclusion, and we greatly appreciate the work of our coordinator of school nurses, Denise Unruh and Karen Stoddard, with their help with that. On ARE7, when Ms. Cartledge gets to that, this AR had not been updated or revised since 2001, and we appreciate Attorney Cartledge and Dr. Bruder's work on that. Ms. Cartledge?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, board members. I appreciate the opportunity to appear before you this evening. I would like to start by thanking Ms. Unruh and Ms. Stoddard and the nurses for their assistance in updating administrative SS 47. The purpose for revising this administrative regulation is that the individual healthcare plan is now also referred to as individual treatment plan. And what we have done in this AR is we have cited the South Carolina law with respect to the definitions of medication monitoring device, individual healthcare plan, individual treatment plan. We've also, in section number 4, self-administration of medication authorized, under subsection A, the permission for self-monitoring or self-medicating is effective for the school year for which it is granted and must be renewed each school year upon fulfilling the requirements provided in this administrative regulation. An assessment for elementary students will be completed by the school nurse to determine whether that student is able to self-monitor. We now refer to healthcare providers as healthcare practitioners. And any medications authorized to be carried by student must be maintained in a container appropriately labeled by the pharmacist to fill that prescription. And the nursing staff is very diligent about keeping the required permissions in the office of the school nurse. And we discussed in our meeting our forms that the nurses use, their prescription for medication, permission for school administration, and we also have our forms in Spanish for our ESOL population. The parent and legal guardian and the student shall authorize the school to share the student's IHP, ITP with school staff who have a legitimate need to obtain this information. We also added a section with respect to section 7, and that involves the section 504 medical accommodations plan. And this plan must contain the components of the IHP, ITP, in addition to information provided by the student's health practitioner, the student's paralegal guardian, and the student if appropriate, as well as designated school staff members, and the school nurse must be involved in the development and approval of this plan, because we want to protect the health, safety, and welfare of all our children and have a coordinated effort for the delivery of care in district schools. And last, we added the South Carolina Code of Regulations that address individual healthcare plans and IPPs, and the Department of Education has printed a publication frequently asks questions about the individual healthcare plans. And we are working now on updating, since y'all updated your board policies in February this year. We need to redo our crosswalk because we need to make sure that our administrative regulations are in alignment with the board policy. So that is a process that we're working on now. With respect to the second, I want to thank Ms. Bruder for her excellent help. We're in the process right now of reviewing all the communication administrative regulations because it's been many years since they've been amended or revised. And as you're all aware, we've had many changes in technology, social media. We want to be in the current time. You all have an OE that references OE number 16 has to do with FOIA. And we want to be in compliance with the board's policies. And so this administrative regulation has been amended so it will reflect what is in your board policy. It also reflects what is in the law with respect to our public making requests and what the procedure is for that. And in addition to that, we have added section 2C. The board has a requirement about the district posting all of our FOIA responses on the internet, and that information that is required is listed there in section C. Also, Dr. Rodriguez is to ensure that our requests and responses are tracked by the calendar year and that we report quarterly to all of you, and that we have an annual report that we present in January of the year. And Ms. Bruder and her staff have been working very hard to comply with their OE as far as preparing an annual progress report for you, which I believe she'll be presenting maybe in November to all of you. And she, Ms. Bruder, as Director of Communications, will implement, coordinate, and supervise the Office of Communication. She has 3 staff members. We also added under section B from the Beaufort County Schools Coherent Governance Manual, the governance, operational expectations, and your board policies to be in congruence with that. So, can I answer any questions?
Further, I got one.
Yes, ma'am.
You've already heard.
I made your correction, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Well, the copy I have doesn't have the correction on it.
Yes, and I believe Ms. Mercado was making copies, so under B, 3B, under SS 47, monitoring device is defined as implements prescribed by a healthcare provider for monitoring a chronic health condition in accordance with statute.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Okay, that's
Dr.
fine.
Bonds. Yes, thank you.
I have those.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, Dr. Collins, or anybody?
No other hands are up.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Burns.
Yes, thank you, and thank you to the committee for your input and your feedback. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, the next two items are OEs that we are bringing forward to the board. OE 8.6 and OE 15. Now, the Operations Committee, which is comprised of Ms. Ingrid Bobright and Mr. William Smith and myself, we had a unanimous vote for the committee to send to the full board for acceptance to be put on the consent agenda. However, this evening, OE 8.6 has been pulled off the consent agenda. So I had planned to go into some conversation about it. I'm not exactly sure how you want me to proceed with that. When it comes off of it, does it need to go through the full report?
We just need to, it just can't be voted on as part of the full consent agenda, so you can address it now.
Okay, great. All right. So OE 8.6 was a monitoring report for cleaning and maintenance and so on. And Mr. Odding presented that to us, and you all have reports in Word docs. So I hope you've all had a chance to look at it. There were a couple areas in the OE that we had some great discussion about. First of all, I'd like to discuss what the functioning work order system, what some of the conversation we've had about that. All right. The major concern about that was the feedback loop. A concern was raised about who signs off on a work order indicating the job is completed. This concern surfaced while Mr. Earl Campbell and I were doing our site visits as part of the North Override Ad Hoc Committee. We learned that the person completing the work order signs off on the work order instead of school personnel. We also learned that often a new work order would have to be initiated to complete or fix the original problem. So this was a perfect OE to talk about this work order concern. At our meeting, Mr. Odding ensured that Mr. Ed Miller, who is the Director of Maintenance for ABM, and Ms. Brandy Major, the Facilities Service Manager for Maintenance, Custodial Grounds, joined our meeting. After voicing this concern about the feedback loop for the work orders, we learned that Ms. Major has some new responsibilities, and they will include being a point person for schools to contact regarding work orders. We also learned that Mr. Miller has implemented 3 new strategies to increase the communication between maintenance and schools. 1, there will be site surveys that result in work orders being placed. 2, work orders response card for person in the area to fill out where the work is being performed. And 3, managers will reach out to school sites to meet weekly or bi-weekly on any open work order. Part of the conversation that we had was about whether or not a school personnel should be signing off, whether or not school personnel should be signing off on that work order. Mr. Odding suggested that may place a burden on school personnel and maybe slow down the process of maintenance personnel waiting on a signature. So the conversation went on and on. And in order to bring it to some type of conclusion, I suggested that we bring it to the full board tonight for a discussion on whether or not there was great desire that there should be a signature, on-site school signature on the work order. I'm going to share with you that I believe that the strategies that were implemented recently to try to address this concern is the reason why I voted that we recommend acceptance of this OE, because I feel that when there's a problem that's been raised, if there are ways to address it, then we see that continuous growth. But Ms. Bobright, Mr. Smith, would you like to add anything to that preface?
In terms of what you just said, yes, I do agree, and there was, I believe that Mr. Scrivener, he gave some input as well as into how that could be, possibly done as well at the school level, as in, if the teacher, whoever put the work on it, then they'll know, they can know wherever, if it's the air conditioner, for instance, wherever the air conditioner is actually fixed or not. So I think at some rate, we would need to include the person who did the work on. I think that would take 2 seconds for the teacher to realize if the actual air conditioner is working, if they hear it come on and they see it cooling, or if they ask for something in their room to get their chalkboard to get put up or some of that. Because there are a lot of times when we're having teachers to reach out to say that the process is that, from what I said, that they send the work order to the office, and the office sends it to the maintenance, and the maintenance comes out there. They're not sure where it gets flagged at, but it takes a very exceptional while on that. And so even hearing some of the remedies that they're putting in place, it concerns me, because now we were taking someone from one position and putting them in another position. And so I'm concerned that I'm not sure if that will be the actual answer to remedy the situation, because it comes down to, as well as to me, as accountability. And I think the accountability piece is the piece that will identify where exactly it is to what the situation is, what's taking so long, and what's actually the situation at hand we have, versus just spending more money. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. And just to address that one concern, the second strategy that Mr. Miller shared with us is that a work order response card for the person in the area where the work is being performed will be filled out. So, Ms. Boatwright, would you like to add something?
Sure. I would just say that this conversation came about because we did find a dip in the performance assessment of the maintenance. And the general consensus was COVID has added strain, and we have not added staff and resources, so that had to be factored in. And that generally speaking, people were satisfied with the customer service and the maintenance person. It was just being stretched thin. And so we did want to make sure that if work orders weren't being done properly, that there was a way to remedy it, which I think Mr. Miller spoke to. I'm firmly against having school personnel sign off, because I think in addition to creating time, I don't think that every person should have the authority or the liability of responding to whether or not something's been repaired correctly. I think that should fall squarely on the maintenance contractor. So I came down on the other side of this debate. I do think there needs to be a process where we make sure that work orders are done to our satisfaction. I think Mr. Miller heard our concerns. There were 7 board members in that meeting. We talked for over an hour and a half. I think he heard our concerns, and I thought his proposals were really good, and we'll just have to see at our next OE report if there's been an improvement in that area.
Dr. Rodriguez?
Yep, I would, can you hear me? Okay.
Just maybe get a little closer.
Yeah, I would just say that, so hearing the discussion and the concerns that are brought up, I think operationalizing a plan to address that feedback loop and making sure that there is closure on work orders and reported closure on work orders to schools. I think that plan lies in process, lies in the responsibility of the administration around it. And so I think that's our charge, is to go develop the process and develop the plan. And ultimately, we want to see improvements on that feedback piece.
Ms. Rowan?
Yes, I also attended that operations committee meeting. I think what has been proposed, those 3 new components, I'm of the mindset that we let those work, see if they work. We'll have new data, we'll have new things after we let that course of action take place. So I thought that they were responsive and listened and came up with some viable plans to address it.
No, Mr. Earl Kimball.
Yes. As Ms. Fisher said, we visit every school north of Broad. And it was the same complaint that we got. Let's say ceiling tiles. There's a leak in the roof, or there's condensation coming from the air conditioner, whatever. They're coming to replace the tiles. But a few days later, or a month later, you still got the same problem. And my suggestion is, if we don't have the personnel to handle it, we need to go outside. Yeah, there are many companies outside that can come in and fix the problem. I know we have a procurement code, but I think that those are some of the things we need to look at. Tiles on the floor. That they put work on it, and it never get changed. You know, so those are some of the problems that I see, and I hope that we can correct those problems. You know, as far as the principal or the assistant principal to sign off on work orders, they have to know that the job has been completed. And a lot of times they don't know. Maybe some of them do, some of them don't. So those are some of the things that I saw. I got some more, but I will save that for later. Thank you.
David?
Thank you. Yeah, I agree that we'll let this process work, but when we ask if it's working, we're going to be asking teachers. We're not going to ask people to make the presentations. We're going to have to ask the teachers, because I went to a couple of teacher forums. One of their big issues was they submit an issue, they're having a problem in their classroom. One, they didn't know what the status was. They couldn't track the status. And two, they never asked if it was okay, if it was fixed the way they needed it fixed. So those were two things I learned from the teacher forum. So those are the two things we have to make sure are covered. Teacher says there's a leak in the thing, then somebody's got to go back to that teacher and say, is it okay? And just touch base with them so they know they're heard, and they know we're taking their complaint seriously and we're moving on.
That's what I have up.
Okay. All right, Kathy, did you lower your?
No, I have.
You have to go again? Okay, so Kathy and then Will. Sorry.
So I think that based on what I heard at that meeting, that the response cards will be completed by the teachers, that they fill, so that's the part of the teacher feedback loop. So that's part of the process. And the managers meeting weekly in the building should also help with that. I would hope that, so that's what, we would be looking for, right?
Mr. Smith?
Well, actually, I hear that, but once again, just to go back off something that was said today about teachers signing off on it. I don't really take it that teachers are signing off on it. I think that they are initiating a document that says, yes, the maintenance he or she was here, and that they're giving a level of not just transparency, but a level of accountability. Yes, they were here, they looked at the situation. So now you knew that somebody was out there versus just saying that they were also talking about there was a problem in supervising and different things and probably having too much in an area. But I mean, so I think to speak to what Mr. Scripture just said, I do believe that there's a level of validity that teachers should be actively engaged in, not just a card, because it's differently when I can just tell you 5 minutes or sign off, said yes, I appreciate it, overall versus signing off on the card and saying, no, don't know where the card is going at, because we had that same conversation about the surveys. And teachers aren't doing the surveys because some teachers feel that the surveys doesn't mean anything. So why would the teachers do the square cards? The square cards, we had a conversation too about surveys, about seeing how they felt about that's how this came about. So to me, that card is in the same bracket as those surveys that those teachers did not do, because some teachers feel that filling out those surveys was a waste of time because nothing would be done. So I just want to reiterate that out there, put that out there. Thank you.
Mr. Mel Campbell?
Yeah, I was at that meeting and I had big concerns, but people who had more information about surveys said that that was an adequate response for surveying. But I still contest that notion that 63% of the people who are responding in terms of quality control for cleanliness in our building is inadequate. If surveying is one of the ways that we know that we're complying with clean sanitary buildings, then that surveying has to be mandated. Where almost every teacher has to apply, have to reply with an answer. I don't think 60 out of 100 people can that can be an adequate sampling of whether the building is clean or not.
Mr. Smith?
One last quick point. I was going to say also, this also goes to me, in my mind, this goes in the line of retaining teachers also as well, because some teachers may not want to work in a space where they may not have AC, or they may feel that they're being ignored, and which they may not. So I just want to put that out there for food for thought that, this, to me, this is a part of the teacher retention as well. We'll put that out there. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Rich.
Thank you very much for the segue into my next comment, and that was, we had a conversation also with this report about the response rate. For the audience's edification, the response rate from administrators was 63%, all right, of the cleanliness of their building. There are a couple board members, Mr. Campbell and myself, that felt that 63%, hey, if I'm a principal and I'm in charge of my building, I need to report how I feel about the cleanliness or the maintenance of it. And so we both want to see that 63% much higher. Again, this mitigating circumstances, this survey was sent out in August. We know that there were at least 9 new principal positions, maybe not new to the district, but new in a building. So I think that, again, once all of these things are taken into consideration, the next one will be a much better baseline for us to see how things are moving on. And then the last thing I want to make sure that everyone understands about this OE 8.6 is that the contract we have with ABM is we contract for a specific number of people in the maintenance, okay? With the onset of COVID and the necessity for all the PPE, for all the personal protective equipment, the hand sanitizer, everything like that, it has put an extra burden on those already finite number of maintenance personnel that we have. All right, the numbers didn't continue to grow. And Mr. Otting reported to us in his analysis of it that the amount of work that some maintenance personnel are doing is equivalent to maybe 2 full-time FTEs, 2 full-time equivalent people that would take to maintain what has to be done for the PPEs. So that too is a mitigating circumstance. All in all, to say,
Could the people that are speaking in the audience please refrain from vocalizing? It makes it very hard to hear what the person is saying. You have your option to give your opinion during public comments, and there is a second public comments today. So request that you do not comment as the board is discussing things. Go ahead, Mr. Lee.
So I just think that there are many factors to take into consideration when you are determining whether or not to accept this OE. I believe that there are strategies implemented that we're going to see improvement, and again, like I said, a couple of mitigating factors. So at that, since it was pulled off the consent agenda, we need to have a motion that the board accept OE 8.6. So I'll make that motion. I move that the board accept OE 8.6.
Mrs. Romine.
Seconded.
Any discussion? Mr. Smith?
Did we assign that OE somewhere else?
we had it under board business, but it's fine because we talked about it under operations, and under operations, it says a vote may take place on any potential recommendations. The key thing was that it wasn't included as part of the consent agenda. So it seems like this would be the logical place, since this is where we just discussed it, to have it, because there's now the vote, and it's well printed on the agenda.
Thank you.
You're most welcome. All right, voting is open.
Yes.
No one's got.
The motion is approved unanimously.
Thank you. The second OA that we discussed in Operations Committee was OA 15, Safety and Security, and that is on the consent agenda. The last thing that we discussed in Operation Committee was, it was actually just a discussion, and it was on use of facilities. Mr. Smith requested this item, and we had a conversation about the use of facilities, and so I'm going to ask him to lead this part of the committee report.
Did you want to feedback on that?
I think it's up to you. I mean, you wanted, I would say that you know, if you could,
okay, well,
summarize what we discussed.
Well, the reason why I brought this up to the committee is because I want to understand the process of a board member getting use of the ability to have a community meeting, because it's very important that we I see it being very important that we have contact with our constituents and have community meetings, so district meetings. And so with that being said, I asked that I contacted the facility director and asked the process, and certain things were said, and so I thought that this was quite interesting, and I wanted to understand how the board felt and get their understanding, because the interpretation I got was a personal interpretation, and I asked him, where could I find out the exact answer to show me exactly what they were saying, what they were saying. And so in the process of me trying to understand that, they said, no, well, it seemed like you want to have your own meeting, but I was trying to have a community meeting for the District 3, for the District 3 and constituents in one of the buildings. And so I start to just unravel and just try to understand the makeup of it, and I just want to bring it to the full board, see what the whole board thought about it.
Mr. Albright, would you like to add anything? Since you also read anything?
I think what we ended up talking about, and I think what Mr. Smith's referencing as far as our AR on facilities was what rights do board members have as individuals in terms of use of facilities versus what rights do board members have if we're part of a board function. So if I, as a personal board member, want to do something at a school, there's fees involved, which I know that they will often waive if it's like a community type event. You also are required to have $1 million in insurance and that type of thing. Those provisions are waived if it is a school sponsored or a board sponsored event. but that those provisions are not always waived if it's just an individual board member who wishes to do something at the school. So that, I believe, is kind of the discussion that we were looking to have.
Yes, that's exactly where it went, started with what Mr. Smith said, and then that was part of the conversation. Anybody else want to, Mr. Smith, what, did you want a resolution to come out of tonight's meeting?
Yes, I would, because, to me also, there was a green line, because also, I believe it was stated well that you're, asked the question that was posed, well, how do you know that you're not trying to have meetings because you're running for re-election and using the building for that type of usage? I believe that was said in the meeting too. So, that's why it's important that we see and understand exactly what it entails. And so then I also asked, well, what would be the difference of a board member using a school to have a community District 3 meeting or any district meeting versus the superintendent in terms of or teacher of any magnitude, what's the difference in the process? Because it is about schools business and it's using the school's facilities. And I know we have done it in the past. I'm aware that it's been done in the past from several board members. And also they were just a community meeting recently. In my districts. So I'm trying to understand what's the process, some consistency and where it's spelled out at. Maybe Dr. Rodriguez and his staff can help us out with that.
Mr. Ryan, can you speak to practice around that?
And before Mr. Otting does, I just want to say, I don't recall anyone saying, how do we know you're not going to use it for campaigning? I think that we were reminded that we are not allowed to use any district supported facilities, funds, any type of district resources, the word I'm struggling for, when running or campaigning. So.
And then I would add to that, then that's when you would ask, what is the meaning pertaining? And then I believe that clarity will be there if the question is asked. For instance, Mr. Campbell, what are you intending using the facility for? When he said he's intending using it for a District 3 community meeting, then the clarity was not clear. I believe that clarity would be there. So I do believe that was possibly posed, and that wording may be a little uncomfortable, but that was some of the verbiage that was used, and so that's what made me want to have it clear spelled out. So therefore, we don't run in the future. We don't run into that particular problem. So that's the point of me bringing it forward.
So as far as the process goes, y'all have done a pretty good job of describing it, I would say. The only thing I would add my interpretation of the rule and the way I interpret it is that if a single board member wants to use the facility, my interpretation is that the board would need to sponsor that event. So that board member would need to come to the board, and the board would then need to say, this is a board sponsored event for whatever purpose, and we support it. And with that would waive any fees or insurance or anything, because now it's a board sponsored event. But if an individual board member comes and asks for the use of a facility that's not been endorsed by the board, then that's equal to any other person in the public coming and asking for the use of the facility. So you would have to follow those same guidelines. And as Ms. Boatwright mentioned, if it's a public meeting like that, a lot of times we'll waive the fees, but we would still require the proof of insurance. So that's how I've interpreted it. And if the board would like me to interpret it a different way or give me some guidance on that, I'd be more than welcome. I'd love to hear your response on it.
Okay, we're going to let people have spoken to speak. Mr. Earl Campbell.
Yes. In the past, the reason why individual board members didn't have a meeting at school is because not of the insurance, but who's going to clean up? That was the issue. Myself and the council member, we have meetings at Jordan Wells. So that's, we have never had a meeting at a school. So that was, because the question came about who's gonna pay the custodian to come to clean the building once we leave. So I think that's, if that's what we want, then we have to vote on it as a whole, the whole board. Thank you.
To me, Robert, your interpretation sounds very logical because an individual board member only has power and authority when the board is conducting business, i.e. between the gavel, the start of the meeting and the end of the meeting. Outside of a meeting, a board member is just like any member of the community and would be, have the, whatever the citizens have to do to, have the whatever space they want at the school. They have to go through the same channels. An excellent place to have meetings that works well or has worked well, certainly for me, and I know other board members, is at your branch library. You can set up an appointment or to reserve the room there and have a meeting with constituents or something like that. See, Mr. Smith?
Just to speak to the point of having a meeting at a public library, every zone, every area is different. Some libraries may close at 6 o'clock, constituents may get up at 5 o'clock. So if they're just getting off or it's getting to the public library is closed, then that's different. But also, as a board member, and you are a district representative, it is your duty task to meet with your community and your constituents and hear them out and for you to update them. That's taking upon school business. To me, you should conduct that in a school building where the tax dollars are paid for by the taxpayers. And that's no different with you. If you're doing your school business on these schools, technology and electronics, that's why we get them. We get electronics because we're conducting them on here and we know they're safe and it's a good place to do that. And it's safe. So I'm trying to understand the process of thinking in terms of doing it in different places. When you're holding a area meeting in a school building that where we have one in St. Helena, and I don't believe that it was dirty. I don't believe that anyone left anything nasty. I believe the building was clean when we left out there, and I don't believe that we had that situation. And for certain areas, we may not have other options like some areas may have. Some areas may have different places in different buildings and different churches that certain people may have. So it can come down to your poor areas have different opportunities. We don't have luxurious as other people's well. So I think this is something that everyone is entitled to their opinion. But when you take a dive in it, to me, it's about accountability for my constituents. And the point of paying me $1,000, then I would actually, when the superintendent has town hall meetings, the superintendent, he's conducting the business of the district. Is the district, we charge $1,000 or to have the insurance for him conducting the board's business at that time? Because I'm saying he's the superintendent at that time, but at that time you meeting with your constituents of your district. So there's some things out, and I'm just going to leave it. And like I said, it's been done in the past. And it was just one recently done on St. Helena Island, at St. Helena Gym. And if it was done then what's the difference between it being done now? And what was the process then, and what's the process now? And he said that I think also the problem is, to bring it close, is that he said it was all of this stuff that said his interpretation. I think that we should send this to the policy then, the committee, and ask the policy committee to clarify, because it should not be a personal how they proceeded. It should be spelled out in written policy. So there should be no room for interpretation. It should be what the board or what the policy states. There should not, because this is the position change. Someone else can come up and say, well, that's not how I see it. It's a board member, they want the building. So therefore, I think it does not need to be a room for interpretation on this. And I'm quite disappointed that we don't think that's important enough for us to use these school facilities to take care of people's business, but we think it's important for us to use the school technology and other means to do school business and come here and use this building versus going out and using, Kmart, so a lot more.
Please don't pass judgment on the other board members.
No,
Would you like to make,
Madam Chair, I'm not talking that, I'm just saying.
stop talking?
No,
Respect the gavel.
No, I don't.
Yes,
listen, it's
Mr.
not about
Smith.
respecting the gavel. I told you how I feel.
Mr.
Please
Smith.
don't stop. You tell me how you feel when I get done talking. All due respect, I'm handling you, bro.
I have.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'm done. You can have, now you can speak. Tell me how you feel. I respect you, you respect me.
I'm
Not no
asking
gavel.
you, sir,
I'm
to
not a
be
dog.
quiet and respect the gavel.
I'm not a dog.
Do you have a motion? Do you have a motion?
Sure, my motion will be to send this to my motion right there, I'm having a chance, I make a motion that we send this to what's the name of your committee right now? But I thought it was the next speaker, is it her? Who's the chair of that committee?
Policy.
The policy, excuse me, thank you. Then we send this to the policy committee so that we can get a clear cut exactly on the process of this. Thank you.
Do we have a second? Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, put my hand up.
Okay. You both said it. Sure. Okay, Mr. Mel Campbell, you second the motion. Any further discussion? Ms. Rowan.
ARs are not policy, they're written by the administration. And I think that if we're looking for clarity, we could ask Mr. Outing to put what he said verbally in writing and present that as it presents a clear outline. My second comment is I feel certain that a board member at the invitation of the PTO or the SIC can attend at any time and have a forum that way.
Ms. Boatright?
Yes, thank you. I can't support this motion because it's an AR, it's not a policy. But I will say, I wanted to read into the record what we talked about, what we have on its AR number. It's on our website, AROS 29, use of facilities. And then it is, the relevant passages, in my opinion, are B under usage fees. Let's see, wait, hold on. Citizen, I wrote on the wrong thing. Okay, nonprofit organization, so it's 3A, shall mean any civic, service, political, fraternal, government, religious, any citizen, well, I'm reading the wrong thing here. Let me go to the one for the group, because I think what Mr. Smith is asking for is to create a third category. And I just want to find the right thing. Okay, special use provisions. Any federal, state, or local unit of government or government agency, which would be the school board, may use a school facility for conducting a public meeting or hearing without charge, except for additional supervision and or custodial services as needed. Then we have a provision in here that says any citizen can essentially use it. Okay, it's section 1B. It is a policy of the Beaufort County School Board to allow citizens to use school buildings and facilities for civic, cultural, educational, recreational, and other such activities, so long as such use does not conflict with the use of public school buildings and grounds for public school purposes and activities, with state laws, with local ordinances, or with the proper care and maintenance of school facilities. So citizens are allowed to use it and government are allowed to use it. I think what Mr. Smith is asking is that school board members as individuals are not counted as citizens under this, but are counted as government entities. And I think that that is in direct contradiction with what I understand our charter as a school board.
So Ms. Griffin, are you able to display the motion? Please. Ms. Biggers?
Thank you. I am going to support this motion because this was the resolution that I thought where it should go. The ARs and the policies have to align. Okay, Ms. Cartledge has said that several times, the crosswalk between the policies and the ARs. I think that the policy committee would be a great place to look at this and either bring forward to the board and a policy that addresses this, or they say that this would be in conflict of state ethics because you have to, if you let a school board member do it during this time, you have to let another, I mean, I don't know. But I think that it would be a good place for it to move out of this to the policy committee where they can discuss it. So I'm definitely going to support this motion.
It's not Mr. Mel Campbell.
Yeah, I agree with District that, you know, the AR is responsible for the policy of what the AR is responding to. And if the ARs are responding and we as a board don't think it's defined enough to accommodate the policy, then we have to set the policy where it is defined enough. Our interpretation is reasonable to most of us, but if it's not, you revisit it from a policy standpoint. That's the way I look at the process. And, you know, to speak to Ms. Robine's suggestion, I think there is a process in place that can accommodate what Mr. Smith is asking for. I mean, he's just asking for an audience in the school with his constituency. Now, he may not be the person to ask for that, but he certainly can be the person invited to that audience. It's just a matter of how you get things done, and we need to get past this.
Mr. Stringer?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As a member of the policy committee, I'd really like to know what this is that we're sending to the policy. I just want to make sure that we know what it is that we want the policy committee to look at. Is it to review the AR? Or
not only to just review the AR, but also to have it spelled out so there's no room for interpretation. So you can go and read exactly what the policy is and you don't have to ask questions. It's clear that one person, it's not about how they interpret it. It's about, it spells out exactly what he or she or how you will be able to have access to the building and to what I'm understanding. Now, I'm not just about the insurance part, the insurance, all that is spelled out. There's no questions about it. And it's clear.
okay, I got the insurance part.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I got that part. What else? But I want to just make sure that I got the target, so we don't drift all around. Is another one of the targets that you want addressed board members' reservation of school?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, and that's not clear, although it sounded pretty clear, but okay, I got those two things. If there's more, then send an email to us so that we make sure that we do what you're asking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to drift all, or you could just come to the meeting and clarify it too, you know, but I just want to make sure we don't waste a lot of time trying to speculate what it is you're looking for, you know.
Yeah, well, I think it's pretty clear. I think I've said it pretty much clear between the day of the last policy meeting and today what I'm asking for. I think it's pretty clear where it can be spelled out and not really, there's no room for interpretation. I think that's pretty much clear in the scripture. I'll give you any credit for that. Thank you.
All right, voting is open. Boards now.
Yes.
The motion carries 6-4. The prevailing side is Mr. Earl Campbell, Melvin Campbell, Tricia Fidrich, William Smith, Richard Geyer, and Angela Middleton. Ms. Vickers?
Thank you, Dr. Watts. And lastly, I would just like, as chair of the operations committee, to ask Dr. Rodriguez to please thank the staff members that work so diligently. I mean, the operations committee works with operations, human resources, student services, communications, and please tell your staff, thank you very much for all their hard work. That concludes the operations report.
Thank you. Next, we have the policy report with Mr. David Strivenger reporting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Policy Committee met on October 25th. One of the issues we discussed was board members logging in with more than one device. We came to the conclusion there was no policy needed on that. Not close enough.
There you go.
All right. It's so seldom that people ask me to speak loud.
You carry a big stick all the time.
We discussed the matter of board members signing in with two devices and decided that there was no policy needed. But there were existing policies, and plus if we prohibited that, it would be unenforceable and probably counterproductive. There are instances when that would be legitimate. We had a recommended motion from the Finance Committee, which was the board passed, and it was just a matter of placement. Put that in OE6, number 19. You added that at the bottom of the list of financial responsibilities where it belongs. We were going to deal with clarity for Ms. Walton, but Ms. Walton wasn't at the meeting, and we spent some time kind of speculating what she wanted, and that was a waste of our time. So at the next meeting, we're going to meet with Ms. Walton, find out what exactly the clarifications are that she needs to deal with. That is the end of my report.
Thank you, Ms. Right down.
It puts my hand up automatically now since I'm here.
Okay. And there not seem to be any hands up. And no actions necessary. Nope. Next up are the superintendent's report, Dr. Rodriguez.
Thank you. We begin superintendent's report this evening under student achievement with a presentation on community partners. So I'm going to ask Dr. Straddles and Dr. Campbell to join us for this.
Good evening, board members and Madam Chair. This evening, Dr. Nakia Campbell will share a brief presentation on the extended work that the Instructional Services Division is developing in collaboration with local community organizations. Our first initiative was generated by an extended partnership with the Hilton Head Boys and Girls Club, and that we provided you a brief information regarding that in our prior meeting. Our next phase is targeting north of the Broad areas of St. Helena and Ladies Island Middle School and Ladies Island Elementary. The next three phases will address the Whale Branch area, Bluffton area, as well as the onboarding of a project director to manage the extended learning and grow continued community relations and growth within our community. With that, may I introduce or share with you Dr. Nakia Campbell. She has been working with 9 organizations north and abroad. And at this time, Dr. Campbell, please.
Good evening. I want to make sure that everyone can hear me.
Yep.
All right, good. So I'm here today to provide an update for the St. Helena and Ladies Island Community Engagement Initiative. And I'd like to start with the quote from Helen Keller. And she said it best: alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. So I have the pleasure of working with the St. Helena and Ladies Island community members, as well as school leaders and other officials, to include our board member for District 3, Mr. William Smith, on an extended learning opportunity. If you can go to slide 2. This initiative is to provide extended learning opportunities for our students in the St. Helena and Ladies Island communities. We met with community members from both areas, Ladies Island as well as St. Helena. We met several times virtually to discuss this opportunity. A part of our discussion is that we wanted to provide extended learning opportunities beyond the school day for students in the communities. A part of the community members that were present during our virtual meetings were community members that were retired teachers, school counselors, and even a retired principal invested in this opportunity for our students. Slide 3. Through the collaborative discussion, we were able to target 200 students, approximately 25 students that we can serve per site. So we're really excited about this opportunity. The St. Helena Ladies Island Community Engagement Initiative involves community agencies as well as our local churches. For example, Penn Center, the Scott Community Center, the Gullah Way tutorial program, the St. Helena Public Library, Grace AME, the New Life Deliverance Temple Tutorial Center, Bethesda Christian Fellowship, and the Church of the Harvest, as well as the Meadowbrook Baptist Church. And all of these locations are located either in the St. Helena community or the Ladies Island community. The purpose behind selecting the locations was to make sure that parents had accessibility to the locations. We wanted to make sure that we had locations throughout both communities. The proposed schedule for the extended learning opportunity was Monday through Thursday, 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock, making sure that our students are fed, that students would utilize at least one of the 3 hours in skill building and remediation, another hour and a half for enrichment or physical activities. We also had a conversation around making sure that kids stay engaged. We want them to show up. So we wanted to embed attendance, grades, and behavior as a factor for our Saturday enrichment opportunities. So I want to talk a little bit more about not only an after-school component, but an enrichment or an extension to learning opportunity for our students. 2 Saturdays of the month, we will dedicate to enrichment and educational field trips, which will be aligned to our grade level standards. Unanimously, the community members agreed that exposure was an essential component to the extended learning model for this initiative. We realized through the meetings that students need to be exposed. Listed here was basically a brainstorm of organizations and community groups that could assist with providing this rich experience for our students. In addition, including and emphasizing a parental component on Saturdays so that we can extend the learning not only in the after-school program, but also at home. We know that it is a 3-pronged approach to success for this model. It's school, community, and our families. We recognize that professional development and training is going to be an essential component of this model. We will build in professional development and training for extended learning community facilitators. The training will cover some of our educational software as listed that we utilize in our school. And this is just another way that we can align our resources. We are excited about this opportunity to serve our students on St. Helena and Ladies Island. We know that coming together is the beginning, but keeping together is the progress. Working together is the success. This is a shining example of how our school, community and families are working together for the betterment of our children in our communities. Our kickoff day for this initiative is January 22nd, 2022. We have a lot of, we've accomplished a lot, but we still have a lot that we have to finalize. We have an upcoming meeting, and at that meeting, we'll discuss the interests of parents, MOAs, expectation manuals, and etc. I'm just excited to have the opportunity to work with community. I feel that that is one aspect that we need to continue to bridge. Great ideas. They're really excited about moving forward, and I'm just glad I had an opportunity to work and continue to work. Thank you.
Ms. Robine.
Dr. Campbell, Dr. Stratos, thank you for this effort. This is something, this community involvement, community outreach is something that we've been talking about since I came on the board. So I'm happy to see that it's coming to fruition. Will we offer bus transportation to these sites for our students, or how will that work?
So we're,
Go ahead, ma'am.
we are still in the planning stages, but the rationale behind identifying locations within the school attendance zone is that we could provide transportation to the facilities, and then at 6 o'clock, parents can pick them up.
Perfect. Thank you.
Ms. Boatright.
I think this is so fantastic. I mean, it's really exciting to see if, you know, COVID's been such a burden on schools, but if it can bring us to bringing the community into the schools and the schools in the community, I'm just 100% for it. As I understand this, this is kind of a long-term look that we're in the very beginning stages of, that this is the first of other partnerships and opportunities that will present itself. So I don't have questions, but as this, I was thinking about this, as this process is evolving, I have three things that I think as a board member, I'd like to hear a little bit more about over the course of the year. One is making sure that every community group has an opportunity to at least have a conversation with the district, so that there isn't this idea that only certain groups, or if you know somebody, or, you know, if you're anyone who has an idea that would like to partner with the school. And I don't know, I had talked about maybe like a virtual fair like we do for jobs, or something where everybody at least had a seat at the table. It doesn't mean we were going to partner with them, but they had the right to come to us and be heard. So if we could focus on that. And then two concerns I have a little bit is just making sure as we start to pull in all these groups that we are evaluating these groups to make sure that they align with the school values. So they don't discriminate. Any kid can go for any reason. It's basis of race, religion, language, LGBTQ, anybody who wants to participate can. And then the second thing is, as a safety perspective, making sure that if these adults are going to be working with our children under sort of our umbrella, that they do all the necessary background checks, and that we're making sure that there is a process in place that is easy to understand and is outlined, and that we can kind of follow and make sure that all these, you know, we have 9 groups here. All the people know, because I know like the Boys and Girls Club, we already do that at Boys and Girls Club, but I know with some of these other groups, they may not be familiar with that process, but I think that's important.
Madam Chair, may I build on that? So board members to recognize in our MOA that would be paramount. That has been a discussion at the table, that we will have those adults working with our students and background checks, because our children are our precious entities. That's number one. Number two, recognizing that, you know, school reform, we cannot do it without community, right? It's not the genie in the bottle, it's a collective model that we use together. So that's very important for us as well. And as you said, phasing out. So one of the entities would be is that as we bring on board a director for the initiative, the goal is that their job will be how to bring on more, how to monitor extended learning. How do we also then determine when we're having those conversations, how do we model actually put in and, you know, monitor, are we being successful or not? And helping with the academic component to the community, right? So that we can give to the community membership, what does Mary need in order to be successful? So that's part of the MOA as well, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I think that's fantastic.
Mr. Mel Campbell.
Travis just answered 40% of my question. I am concerned with our pragmatic approach in this initiative because, what we present to them and what they can present to us as a partnership. I have presented we have adequate input on both ends of it, but they also have a certain amount of independence so they can grow what they're trying to grow. And it requires a lot of planning. I've always been involved with such initiatives myself. It requires a lot of planning and a lot of vetting of the personnel that you're gonna have working with both parts. And I want to be assured that we're supporting the effort from all angles, particularly the financial support that's needed. I don't just want us to bring our educational products and pump it in the church, and this is what we're using, and y'all go from there. I want to make sure that is well planned so that children are getting something, and we're monitoring those children. The 25 that she mentioned at one particular site that's possible. What happens to them 2 years, 3 years down the road? I want to know. Because I don't, we're just not throwing, I suppose ESSA funds are going to be used, right? Not just throwing that ESSA fund down the tube to be used. You're going to build something that's going to have some future. When there's no ESSA fund, this model works. Almost everybody knows that this model works. We got to be dedicated to that model. That's what that's my concern.
So one of the things, Mr. Campbell, we're putting into place is a report card for the children. I mean it in a polite way. So in order to be able to, first, attendance is critical. With that GPA of the students, but then also the behavior, and Dr. Campbell brought over those 3 elements. Those 3 elements are also going to be part of the report card metric for the student. So we could have that going back and forth. What is Mary doing? Participating, what is Mary doing? Attendance at home, to her homeschool and at the program. And then that combination GPA, then bringing that information over to the collaborative group. So that communication process has to go. We need to have some data in order to have long-term sustainability. So when ESSER funds phase out, how do we then turn around to other community partners to try to help fund and grow and look at other sources for money? So we're looking, yes, growing a ripple effect of programs, but also thinking more long-term into the future. The goal is to have an effective model in all our major communities, and I mean that sincerely, sir.
Plus to that is those individuals who are volunteering or in the community, they can become liaisons for us in a long-term process. 4 or 5 years down the road, we know and these people can give us information on where and how we need to go with future endeavors. So it's a win-win if we do it right.
Yes, sir. And I do want to pay credence to Dr. Campbell's work and the work of the community members and board members participating and making this happen. We cannot do it alone. And it has been bi-weekly meetings. It has been not heavy lifting because now we're getting into it as we develop the MOA, we develop the financial model, working with our chief financial officer as well. We have yet to sit with HR for the vetting background, but we're getting there and we're doing it kind of rapidly, but ripping it apart as we go forward, if that makes sense what I'm saying. Okay, so thank you.
Angela Middleton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Dr. Campbell and Dr. Stratos. I think this is a wonderful model. I think the most important piece for me here is the fact that more people in the community will know the programs that students are using in the classroom. And when Mary goes home, then mom will understand, because mom is probably going to spend some time at the after-school program or on Saturday too volunteering. And they're going to understand how to use IRA. They're going to understand how to use Dreambox. and the minister, the children's minister is gonna know too, because it's right there in the church. And then that's the extra hands-on that we need, because then a child will be more prone to get their work done in the classroom, not just in the classroom, but while they're at church or they're on the baseball field. There are all the volunteers there as a group, as a tribe, to help this child progress. And this is how we close the learning gap. And it's gonna take some time, and I'm grateful for this. Thank you for this, Mom.
Appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
Mr. Earl Campbell?
Yes, how many other schools gonna have this program?
Well, once we get this going a little deeper, Mr. Campbell, we are going to be looking at the Whale Branch area next.
Okay.
I have my ideas, Dr. Campbell and I both have ideas of what we'd like to have. I'll put it out to the universe. I wish we had a child center, at least 2 here north of the Broad for students. I might as well put it out there. I ask, maybe the universe will make it happen for us, sir. But that's where our brain is, to be very direct.
So that would include Broad River and Shanklin also?
Yes, that would be open for our children in Shanklin, Broad River, and then obviously, as I shared, we want to go south to Broad back to the Bluffton area as well. This is a very giving community, Mr. Campbell. We're just putting together the personnel to help to ask, but to formalize it as well. So yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Smith?
I would just like to definitely thank Dr. Stratus and as well Dr. Campbell. The pastor stopped me and I said, he said, hey, I'm on with. He said, when Dr. Campbell gonna allow me to tell the community, tell the church. I said, whoa. I said, I'm not sure yet. I said, once you probably to get done with the fine tuning, he said, he said, look, I'm ready to go ahead and get done and figure out what we got to do to make this thing work. He said, this is something good. He said, this is what I've been looking for kind of for a while. And he said, it's time for us to go ahead and move things forward. So basically, I just said that to say that, I didn't have, have him to stop me. And also, he is also, in terms of background checks, he did mention that. And he said that, apparently that conversation was on there. He said, did you tell him my job? I said, no. I said, no, Pat, I tell him the job. He said, well, you never know, I'm 8. I said, no. I said, you can tell him on your next call. But he was on there and he did hear that. And that was something that resonated with him. And he was excited to hear that there was principle and there was core values amongst in terms of how the process and how it's going to go along and what the next steps were. So I just say hats off to y'all. I know that Kelly been working hard because they called me to ask me about her and then tell me that. So I know that they're working and and she keeps me informed. And every now and then I ask her questions. I know she gets sick of it, but but they just be asking me questions. So I try to ask her questions, but I definitely appreciate her. I definitely appreciate you, Dr. Rodriguez, for thinking about the community to set the pilot to hopefully that we can start closing this achievement gap, but also the wealth gap, but most importantly, the achievement gap in Beaufort County. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Campbell. Dr. Rodriguez?
Thank you, Dr. Watts. The next item on the agenda was a request from, I think it was one of our board members, the grievance tracking update on grievances. So, Ms. Walton, are you on?
Yes, I am, Dr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Ms. Walton. Will you take us through that?
Yes, I will. Good afternoon, board, Madam Chair. Matt Hunt and I are going to just do a brief update on where we began and where we are now with the grievance process. As you know, or as you can recall, we started this discussion back in July of 2020 in the Operations Committee meeting. And then we have begun, we started the process. We went through some switches, some changes. We had to back up, turn around, but we have gotten on the right track. And I'm happy to report that the system is in place. And I'm we have one last item to finalize and tweak so that we can get it on the website. and that is our operations manual for the program itself that will guide employees through every step as to how to, what we do with it, how they use it, how they can access it. Even though it's up and running, we're going to officially put that online for them. Since Matt has been the one to shepherd this through from the beginning to the end, I'm going to let him run through that process real quickly for you so you can get an overview of how that system actually works. Matt, I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Very good. Good evening, members of the board. So the iSight is the platform that we elected to go with as a district based on an RFQ that was awarded in December of 2020. If you remember when we went initially for the RFP, we ended up getting bids anywhere from $100,000 to $500,000 to develop a program, and we knew that that was not necessary, so we discontinued that and opened the RFQ process in December of 2020. We awarded that to iSight, and it took a few months to make sure that we got what's called the user acceptance training, and what that really is as they build the platform, we get to test and pilot it. There was a group of school principals and assistant principals that we had to run through the test platform and give us feedback. And once that feedback was received, we worked with iSight to make sure that the system was validated in May of 2021. And then in June this summer, the production went live, and we added the web links for our teachers and employees and classified staff members. Anybody who's an employee in Beaufort County School District has access now to the web link. For certified educators who have access to what's called ClassLink, that's kind of where all the education apps goes. There's an app button on there for iSight. And then for everybody that is an employee, we have on the quick links page on our school district website, a web form that users can go and can complete and fill out. One of the advantages of the users being able to fill out the form online is that they can fill it out anonymously. We would encourage users to put names and put names of witnesses, but they can fill out a form anonymously, which I think will help if people are maybe skeptical about how we handle the process. What we do in the system, I am the super user along with Ashley Crowley, who is our systems manager in human resources. And when a grievance or a harassment or a complaint comes through, a case is what we call it, that case comes to me, and then I'm able to assign the case to whoever the investigative person at the lowest administrative level is. I'm happy to report that we have not had very many cases at this point in time. We've only had 3. And those are not all even grievances. Those are all just concerns. But with that being said, it's easy because we want to solve all problems at the lowest administrative level possible. And that's right in line with HRS 15 under employee grievances. So the program allows us to update and upload any kind of documents. It allows us to upload emails, short video clips up to 500 megabytes, and other types of evidence that will help as we investigate claims. And so with that being said, we also are able to pull reports based on parameters that we might need. So we could look at reports based on school site, based on people that maybe have complaints filed against them, and so forth.
I think, Madam Chair, Matt, have you finished?
Yes, ma'am. That's where we are at this point in time.
Okay. Madam Chair, now we will entertain any questions.
Mr. Campbell?
Max, I think you made a statement that we haven't gotten a whole lot of the plans. But my question is, how do we interface it with instructional leader and the superintendents in terms of what's really happening in terms of school climate, individual school climate? How do we take the information that you're getting or not getting, and how do we cross-reference it with what's really happening in the schools?
Well, the information that we're not getting, there's nothing you could do about information that you don't have. So we just have to take what information we do get. Involved parties, that anybody that has a need to know, they're involved in those conversations.
Yeah, I don't think the person I intended that question to, Matt, you give me your information, that you didn't get a lot of information. This is what I've got. And my question is really directed to the superintendent and his lieutenants, which is, how do we use what we get versus what you got? Let's say you don't have this at all. This thing doesn't exist. I'm sure you got information on, people leaving, people disgruntled, a bunch of other things that's going on in the schools. And I mean, I'm sure you got them probably listed from 1 to 32, which one's the most disgruntled employees and which one is not. And if this information isn't showing it, then we have concern. That's why I want to know, how do we cross-reference this information with the information you have? And is there a way to cross-reference it? Does Dr. Stratus know where the complaint's coming from? And does it relate to what she sees when she's in the school? That's my question.
So, Mr. Campbell, I think.
Yeah, Alice, you want to take the first part of that? Go ahead.
Yes,
Or
yes, I
David?
will. Mr. Campbell, what we do is the information that we get, we look for trends and patterns. So if we get responses, we group them by nature. What's the nature of the complaint? What's the nature of the grievance? So when we do that, we look at responses and patterns. So those patterns tell us what the issues might be. Once we get that grouped information, of course, we pass it on to the superintendent and any other senior staff that might need to know that information. We don't divulge where it's coming from, other than it might be lumped in one school, it might be lumped in one cluster, but we just pass on what those patterns are and what those complaints are so that they can use for their purposes in terms of instruction.
I think in addition, Mr. Campbell, so this is essentially a data point, right? You have upbeat as an additional information data point on, you reference climate and those types of things. In addition, you have executive directors that we put in place that also frequent schools on a regular basis, and also have a continued sense of climate culture within buildings as well. I also have, I frequent schools all the time, and I spend time in there. I have people who reach out to me from individual schools, right? So it's when all signals, right, begin to point at something, you need to take a look.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's how it all plays out, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think that's what you're asking.
Yeah, I'm asking kind of that. I'm also asking you to look at the situation that you see and which may not be reported, and for certain reasons that may not be under control of anyone, but if it's not being reported and it's happening, then that's a concern that we also have to have in terms of growing our culture.
Yeah, definitely. And we do take a dive into things that are not reported. And when it's not reported, that particular data point is, it's out of the way, right? Because it's not reported. But it doesn't mean that we might not see things as we excuse me, as we visit schools, right? And I think that's.
I mean, you might hear a lot more complaints than what's on this data points here. That's what I'm saying. If that's overriding it and this is minimized, then we need to find a way that this grows, because this is a product that we put in place to handle that part. If it's not handling that part, then it's ineffective. That's all I'm saying.
Mr. Smith?
In the group, Mr. Campbell, he kind of basically went over my question, but also I was looking for something in writing when giving this report to when we get it, if we may get it again, because my question is, what's the level and what's the volumes? How many people are reporting grievances? Like to what degree are they being reported? You know, because I know from time to time people may call me and tell me different things. And I may come go to the channel, tell them, you know, go through from, go start your building and when work your way up, you know, just don't come to me and I try to redirect them. And so, also, I'm just trying to also see, because I know that I do believe that they are taking place, but how are we, not just the teeth of it, but how are we accounting for this, like, you know, and how are we accounting for what's taking place in what building? And also, when they're taking places at school levels, how do we know at the district level when it's notified of it through this program? Is it a program that calculates from the district level or from the school level that comes to the district level? Like, what's the process? Make a long story short, what's the process of tracking these?
So, Mr. Smith, when the employees file a claim, not all claims are harassment, not all claims are grievances, but they file a claim. The claim comes to a dashboard of a user downtown, and that's going to be usually myself. Reggie Dees also receives claim notifications. We take a look at the claim and we follow the district policy, which is we determine if it's a level 1 or a level 2 type of a complaint. And if it is like a level 1 complaint, we have processes in place for administrators to be able to handle those types of complaints at the lowest level, which means not in the human resources department. The only time we really take on any type of complaint in human resources is if an employee has a claim against their direct supervisor, and that direct supervisor is either a department head or the principal of the building.
So and also, so answering the process, so basically you and Mr. Dees basically decides what level the violation is.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so, and at what degree would you take it to someone higher than you?
Someone higher than us. So we have lead investigators, and the lead investigator takes and gathers the information. Once a determination is made or a resolution has come to, if the person on either side, if either the respondent or the claimant doesn't agree with the findings in the resolution, then they can appeal that up to whoever the superintendent's designee is.
And what would you say about these that the district sees property every 2 weeks or a month?
Can you repeat that? It's kind of hard to hear you. I'm on Zoom.
How many does the district, these complaints does the district receive a month? The grievances?
Well, yeah, at this point in time, sir, we've only received 3 since we launched in August. And those are 3 claims. Those are not 3 grievances. Those are just 3 claims.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Walton and Matt. Dr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Mr. Smith.
I was going to say thanks for the report, thanks for the update. but just next time I just hope that we can have something in writing, so that we can, if I can get to, or write my notes or something, that I can just have something where I can remember what was said at, when it comes to this report next time. Thank you. Definitely do appreciate the report, though. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I will send Mr. Smith and all board members a copy of the handbook. Once it is finalized, it talks about the process, talks about the steps, and it talks about levels. So it's very clear and how that process works. And once we have finalized that and stamped it, I will make sure each board member gets a copy of it.
Thank you very much. That was appreciated.
Okay, next item on the agenda is on universal screeners. And so as a request, also from a board member to talk about universal screeners. So I'll begin with this. On May 18, 2018, Act 213 was signed into law, and it directed school districts to implement multi-tiered systems of support in the 2019-2020 school year. Multi-tiered systems of support, or MTSS, as commonly referred to, is a system of support designed to address the needs of the whole child, academically, behaviorally, socially, and emotionally. MTSS data is collected at the end of every year by the South Carolina Department of Education. This year, all districts and charter schools are required to screen all kindergarten and first grade students 3 times during the year for potential reading difficulties. The state provides a list of approved literacy, numeracy, and social emotional screeners. These are universal screeners, which are a systematic process for identifying the students who may be at risk for poor learning outcomes, including academic, behavioral, social, emotional, school completion, and college and career readiness outcomes. We have selected screeners that we use from the state's approved list of screeners. This includes iReady for literacy, iReady for numeracy, as well as the Panorama screener for social and emotional. That concludes, I think I answered the questions that were posed to us ahead of time regarding the universal screeners.
Ms. Boatright.
Thank you, Dr. Rodriguez. Still playing the new board member card, but as a parent, you know, I think people get comfortable with MTSS and they kind of assume that all the parents are on board with the process. And so it's kind of jarring, I think, to some people when you get these surveys. So I think it's good for the public to know that it's a state mandated requirement. It's all state approved. It's not something that we went out and did on our own or took a particular interest in, but this is just all part of the process and complying with state law. So I really appreciate that explanation, because y'all have been saying MTSS a bunch and I'm always like, what is MTSS? So now I and other parents know.
Ms. Robine.
Dr. Rodriguez, the panoramas, the screener that created some angst among parents because of some of the questions. Is there an option for students or parents to opt out of these screeners?
So that's an excellent question, and yes, we do provide an option for that. I think what I would tell you is that I will because it's these surveys, right, are done a couple of times a year, right? And so what I will do is I will ensure that at the next survey, all of our principals and our school leaders are crystal clear about making sure that information that a survey will be taking place happens ahead of time, and that they provide that option for parents.
Thank you.
Yep.
Ms. Goodrich.
Dr. Rodriguez, can you just share how are some of the results of the panorama survey used?
The results on panorama surveys are used to really identify students that might be exhibiting either some social emotional trauma or some social emotional needs that could be assisted with either social workers or typically if there's anything related to that, you would have contact with parents and say, hey, I think that this type of service might help. Ms. Swinton, are you on?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Can you speak a little bit also to that aspect of it in terms of support for students and communication with parents about that potential support if they need it?
Yes, sir. So the goal of the panorama survey is to be aligned with the MTSS support that's provided to students. And our focus is to ensure that if a student does have an area where they need support, and I want to make it also known that this can be looked at the individual student level, at the classroom level, as well as the school and district level. So this gives opportunity and kind of shines a light on areas that we may need to focus on. And so if there are strategies that need to be utilized either for an individual student or for a particular class or school with regards to the areas of the 5 core competencies, then that's where we want to focus our attention. So we utilize this data to help school teams identify areas where it needs support, whether it be through bringing in additional wraparound services or with connecting to staff that are within the building. So it's really a tool that we're utilizing to ensure that our students have the best experience at school.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Would anybody else like to speak that is not spoken? Mr. Smith?
I was just gonna say thank you. I think this is a big deal. This is really a big deal. I think we definitely appreciate it. Thank you, Ms. for that.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Again, I just highlight at the end of the year, South Carolina Department of Education collects data regarding the universal screeners. Okay. I want to, well, the next item on the agenda is update on school food services. And so, Ms. Crosby, are you available?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good evening. The last 2 years have been particularly challenging in the food service industry due to the pandemic. Our daily lives have really been altered by a lack of staff at our favorite restaurants and empty shelves at the grocery store. Longer lines, unavailable menu items are 2 of the major things that we personally experience. I know I have in many cases over the last few years. And our food service program in their schools is not immune from those challenges as well. So school food service programs across the nation are providing meals, 100% of meals free to students and parents over the last 2 years. We'll continue to do so through June 30th of 2022. Those free lunches also increase the numbers of meals served, free packaging as well, and enhance the challenges that we're facing. So it's not an ideal situation, but our goal today is to inform you about some of those challenges, what we're facing, and what we're doing to address those challenges. And I have a couple of team members from Sodexo here today with me that I'm going to begin the presentation, and then I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Green. So I have Larry Wilson here. He's the regional district manager with Sodexo. Tim Green, the resident district manager here on site in our school district and working every day in our schools. And Roberta Edwards is unable to be with us this evening, but she's also the operations manager who helps to ensure that things run as smoothly as possible in our schools as well. So just a few points I would like to make, and let's start with the first slide if we could, Robin. So there are 3, I call it the perfect storm right now. We have a labor shortage in our industry. We have a unique serving and dining experience that we haven't encountered in years past. and we have a supply chain problem. So those three things are all coming together at one time and creating the situation that we have with before us today. We're definitely, so to start with the supply, serving and dining experience. I provided slides throughout to show you pictures of our smiling workers, and they're working so hard despite the challenges, and also I specifically pointed out pictures that the Sodexo team provided that show the amount of packaging that's required of the meals as well. So I think that those are specifically designed to show you the differences in what we've experienced from the past. So a year ago, we were serving meals in classrooms. They were being delivered with carts. Went to schools and watched staff members, cafeteria staff, actually packing the meals, putting them on carts and rolling them down the hallways with their own systems of recording the meals. And then today we have limited students in cafeterias where some students are attending, dining in the cafeterias, and they may dine on a rotating basis. They may do every other day or every other week and that sort of thing. And many of the items are a grab and go kind of basis, similar to our fast food industry. Meals are required to be packaged, and they continue to be delivered in classrooms today or in central areas of the building to be picked up. And of course, all of these require additional paper supplies, which are at a premium right now, hard to find, and we're daily having battle trying to find which vendor is able to provide the services that we need and where are we going to store them when we get those supplies. So one of the main things I want to talk about is their staffing levels. So traditionally, staffing in Sodexo employees, majority of our employees are Sodexo employees. We have about 7 Beaufort County School District employees that have been grandfathered in from many years ago when we originally began with outsourcing our food service program. And so about 200 is about the norm, the maximum staff that we would have. At this point, so this graphic, I know you can't see the details behind it, but the first gray area is the drop off, and that is virtual when the governor issued a nationwide closure of, a statewide closure of our schools. And so those staffing levels went down significantly, but we did maintain enough to do the meal distributions in the community. And so we did some bus stop deliveries as well as school deliveries and other centralized centers.
Ms. Crosby, I think it's worth noting that during the stretch, Sodexo, in conjunction with our transportation team, worked closely together to make sure that even though the pandemic hit, that we were still getting meals delivered to students at bus stops. I think, if I'm not mistaken, there may have been well over, I think, 3 million meals or so, right there. Yeah. So that is a component, particularly in those initial time span while we were virtual or hybrid, where a lot of things were put in place to continue meal distribution.
Thank you. So then in the October 2020 timeframe, you'll see that spike back up where our students return back in a hybrid status. But we recovered not completely, fully, probably 2/3 of the staff returned at that time. Since that time and through about June 2021, they were relatively stable at that level. And then the drop off you see again is the summer of 2021. So of course, we have a limited staff that are continuing to do the meal distributions at various locations through meal trucks or certain Boys and Girls or YMCA centers throughout the community that we typically do in the summer. And then we recovered again, but then we've struggled quite a bit since the summer of 2021. So we've recovered to a level of about 129 staff, which is about 2/3 of what we typically do see. And so we are still working on that. And as I think Ms. Walton could attest to, and other areas we're seeing, we are actively hiring, but there are also active resignations occurring. And so we're sort of holding steady, but with some slight increases. So the Sodexo team and I, they brought forward some ideas. And so these are a few of the things that we're doing with regard to recruiting. So you'll see a couple of images there that are real life images of things, communications that have gone out through social media, but also we connected our human resources staff of Beaufort County School District and Sodexo to better connect our potential food service candidates on our website to make sure that they're connected to Sodexo websites and Sodexo contacts so that we can make those connections. So we're helping assist them with any opportunities, folks that may come to us or interested in being a worker in our cafeterias. So also Sodexo has increased the starting wage and is now providing incentives for new employees. Also, we're doing referrals for existing employees. So if you refer someone, you will receive an incentive, and those new hires would also receive that. And another initiative we brought forward was that Sodexo and the transportation partners, our transportation team, and I believe that was ideas that were connected when we were talking with Robert Otting and our facilities folks, is to connect the two. So transportation had a professional development day, and the Sodexo team talked to the workers and offered job opportunities that were outside of their bus routes. So before the route, in between the routes at lunchtime, that sort of thing. And we were successful in getting several workers from there as well. And there's been some talk about potential yard signs and that sort of thing at schools. So that's going to be something that we'll be seeing in the near future to in our communities, in our schools, to be posting and trying to get, and they have a QR code they can scan with their phones, and it'll take them directly to the Sodexo website for hiring. So then we're gonna, at this point, I'm gonna turn it over to Tim Green to talk about the supply chain issues and other areas. So with that, thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Tanya. Let's see if this will work up here. So the supply chain has been really one of the most difficult things that we've seen. And again, to reiterate, you see at the grocery store, you go there, there's a lot of food missing. We all see this, Chick-fil-A is still serving through the drive-through, and that's part of the labor shortage that's happening. Cisco and some of the other food deliverers don't have drivers. Larry was talking about one of the locations that they had where they actually had to take all of the staff that was inside of the facility and go to the Cisco warehouse and help load the trucks. So it's not a new problem, but it's a new problem for us because of the pandemic, and it's not getting any better. We've kind of got ahead of the curve here on a couple of things. So right when we started to see things happening, we got with Tanya and our team and started to look for ways that we could procure the packaging that we needed, because we serve a tremendous amount of meals. And, how do you continue to feed kids in the classroom if you got nothing to put the food in? So that was part of the thing. So we have delays in deliveries. Our trucks usually get there at 6 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock in the morning. Some of our trucks aren't coming until after school, which keeps our people there. Our people are working incredibly hard. They're very frustrated in the fact that it is so hard, that the pandemic has made this very hard. This is something where you would ask somebody to go to work and to provide a service for someone And they have the passion for these kids to feed it. And that's one of the reasons why we continue, or they continue to do this. My day started at 3:30 this morning. So I'm at Pritchardville in the morning trying to make sure that breakfast is out because we're short-staffed. There's not one person left in the Sodexo office in the morning time or through the meal period, because we are all at a school trying to make sure that our kids are being fed. So we take this very seriously. This is our passion, and our mission is to make sure that these kids get fed. This is not, again, just our issue. It's a nationwide issue. And we're seeing this all over the place. I know that someone had shared a CNN newscast with us that talked about the fact that there was no packaging to put food in, or the food shortages, where we're having to take, change the menu on a daily basis based on what comes on the truck. When you normally would receive a full truck, you might get half of a truck. So it's a very challenging thing for us. And I appreciate the fact that there's a lot of passion from people that talk about the food and the food program, and say that, there's some social media posts on a barbecue sandwich. Barbecue sandwiches aren't sexy. Guacamole is not sexy, and ribs are not sexy, but they taste good. So taking a picture of something and posting on social media, when I'm in the school every day, watching our people put the meals together, which are fully compliant on what we're doing. We may not serve the vegetable that they wanted that day, but it is what they're supposed to get. And so we are making sure that we are following the requirements that are set forth to make sure that these kids are getting the proper nutrition that they're supposed to. And also that their calorie counts are what they're supposed to be. Those are things that are mandated that we watch on a daily basis. And the meals that we are serving the kids are that. There are some frustrating problems that we face each and every day, but our team is working extremely hard. I would invite any of you guys to come out to one of our schools, let me know, and I will, I'd be glad to meet you there and let you see the teams that are not fully staffed going through the motion of putting out something that is twice as hard because it's all packaged and they've got to make deliveries or feed kids half in the dining room and half in the classrooms. It's very, very daunting.
Can I
Sure.
just invite Tanya for a second to talk a little bit about the process when we hear about social media posts, or when we have a complaint that we get. And so can you talk a little bit about the process, about how you begin to address that with Sodexo and the type of response that plays out as a result of it?
So when I have, after recently hearing of the social media posts, I contacted Candace Bruder, and I are very in tune with that particular topic. I've asked that if she sees anything that's coming across Facebook or any other district pages, that she informs me of what she's seeing. And so also we connected recently the food service, Sodexo food service page with Beaufort County School District page. So if there is a post or a comment we may post something, one of these pictures, for example, that you've seen in this presentation may have been posted, or information about food shortages and that sort of thing we've been posting in social media. So she will inform me, or I'll hear it from the teammates, or I may hear it from on the street. I'm very active at the ball field and in schools. So if I hear something and made aware of it, then I immediately contact the team here, both Larry and Tim, and we discuss the post. We discuss if it's a picture, we discuss the exact, the meal contents, did it meet USDA requirements? Was it, even though it may meet the meal content requirements, it may not have an appeal that I, as a parent, would want my child to be eating, or something to that nature. If that were the case, then I would inform them, and they would say we've removed that item from the menus. So our menus are always built with students' opinions in mind. We survey students what their likes and dislikes are. And oftentimes some of the items that make their way onto the menu may not look as appealing to a parent as it does to a child. So in those cases, we would remove the items off of the menu and substitute it with something else that would be more appealing to the eye or simpler to prepare. In some cases, it may have been the supply of, for example, walking tacos. There was a picture of a Doritos and a meat sauce, but not necessarily all of the other elements of what you or a child would want on them was not present because they weren't available. Lettuce, tomato, cheese, sour cream, that sort of thing. So, so we said, well, if we can't provide that additional, the time and supply to be able to provide that, then let's take that off the menu and replace it with a piece of chicken or something to that effect with a side of corn or whatever, something that's simpler and easier and yet still meets the USDA requirements and is appealing to the eye.
So I think the point that I wanted to clarify and bring out for you and the public is that when there is an issue, that there's a response to that issue, right? That there's a collaboration, a communication, and engagement with Sodexo, with the information we have, a discussion, and a response to the item. That's the issue. I'm sorry, Tim, I just wanted to make sure that.
Absolutely. And I think that even to some of that, the fact that we were talking about some of the packaging, besides the supply chain issues, the menus, when we talk about how we're going to create them, they're created to be a little bit simpler because of the fact that we're serving a hot item and a cold item. So we do serve a hot meal and a cold meal, and the kids have a choice of that. But we've had to make those a little bit simpler as far as not having 15 items to choose from. One, we can't get 15 items, but to make the menus appealing to what the kids are asking us for. Walking tacos is very popular with the kids, but if you take a picture again, it's really not appealing to adults. But generally when we serve a walking taco at a school, there's an accompanying bar that has all of the toppings on it, so kids can choose to put the toppings on or not. We're not afforded that opportunity because packaging, lettuce, tomato, all that and putting it on there not only is very time consuming and it contains a lot of steps. So let's see. Transporting the food also reduces the quality of the food. So when you're preparing 600 meals at a school and you put them in the package and then you put them in a hot box, I always equate that to going to McDonald's and you eat the fries right out of the bag. They're extremely good. But if you put them and take them home and you let them sit, the fries don't taste like the McDonald's fries you think to. So there is part of that as far as the amount of the delivery and we all experience that. We understand what that is. That is, again, communication. Did you want to talk about the communication?
I'm happy to, absolutely. And I just want to dovetail on something he just said. I'm sorry, can you hear me okay? I just wanted to dovetail something that Tim just said that I think is so relevant. The numbers you saw earlier on the staffing, there is a baseline of about 120 cafeteria workers that have been here for a very, very long time. A lot of the cafeteria workers serve some your children in school.
Closer to the mic, please.
I'm sorry, can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
The baseline of the cafeteria staff, I just want you to just reiterating what Tim said, we have some very, very hardworking cafeteria staff out there, and the frustrations that we're sharing here tonight are so frustrating for them. They take so much pride in what they do, and when we do have a menu item menued, we know the kids love it, and the supplier just can't bring it. It is just as it's more frustrating for them than I think it is for any of us. So I just wanted to share that with you because we have some hardworking ladies out there. On the communication piece, of course, we're continuing to work with social media and inviting parents for feedback. We don't get a lot of calls that people pick up the phone and say, hey, lunch was great today, but we do have a lot of parents that have acknowledged through social media. We know what's going on out there. We know how hard it is for you. And we appreciate everything you're doing. So, and then On the meal distribution, if I could see that slide, please. Just kind of following up on something we talked about earlier today, it was important to us that you all know what the team was able to accomplish during the summer and the onset of COVID. The operations team came to us as the leadership team that Sunday morning when the governor closed the schools to say, we're in the schools, we're packaging food and get it ready to get out to the kids tomorrow. We're not really sure how we're going to do it, but we're going to be ready for them. And as Dr. Rodriguez pointed out, over the course of the COVID, we've been able to serve right at 3 million meals. And I just think that's miraculous on the part of the frontline staff to take what they do so very seriously. Then we have
So the last slide, we provide a list of accomplishments throughout the year, and I think we've talked about many of them already. So with that, we'll just take any questions you may have this evening.
Ms. Boatwright?
I don't have a question, I have a comment. I just want to say as a board member, I'm very grateful for what you do in the schools and the free lunches you provide. I met you guys at an operations committee meeting. Is it Noreen? Is that her name? I'm so bad with names. That was working and providing lunches on our own time. I mean, there is clearly a dedication here. I have to say, I find this social media, taking pictures and posting it, a cheap shot. And I think that where there's an expression now, they're talking about the great resignation and the great retirement, the great rudeness. I mean, we are all in this pandemic together. Healthcare workers now, they've got, there was the CEO of Prisma was talking, he said now people are coming into the hospital and spitting on doctors. Like people have lost their sense of perspective. So I think as someone, an elected member of the board, I would just like to say, I appreciate what you do. I don't put a lot of stock in teenagers posting pictures next to the pictures of the bathroom they destroyed from the TikTok devious lick. That to me has very little value. I know from talking to you guys and meeting with you guys that you guys are doing an amazing service. And I just hope that you get the recognition from other members of the board in terms of the fact that you're providing meals for free to these kids. My son takes his lunch. He does it just for a lot of reasons. He's picky and he doesn't want to go and get it. That's an option. If you don't like the food, you have the option of bringing your own lunch. If you would like the free lunch that is provided by the school district during a pandemic, and you have a concern, we have a process. Right? So it's not like you guys are not being responsive. This idea of taking pictures and posting to social media and making jokes and rude comments, I find, to be honest, I'm getting a little worked up here, but I find it offensive. So I just want to say, don't have a question, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
If I can, I just want to tell you that I spend a good portion of my day when a social media post come out, putting out a fire in the school that it comes from the ladies that are devastated by the work that they're doing there, putting out a good meal. You can take a picture of a barbecue sandwich and it's just a barbecue sandwich, but they don't take the picture of the apple or the carrots or the celery or the other items that are part of that meal that make that complete meal that is very nutritious for them. So it is easy for that. But when you've got a team that's already frustrated because of the long hours and the work that they're doing and how hard it actually is. Yeah, I spend a lot of my time trying to talk some of the people off the ledge. And the bad thing is we see our numbers coming up and coming down with employees, and it's hard to keep employees when we're dealing with that because they take it very personally. They've been working there forever. I've got one lady that's been working for us for 19 years. And she told me today, because of the way things are, she's going to leave it in January. That was part of one of her reasons why. So,
well, I would say that the ladies in the lunchroom and the school board members, we could form a club, be roasted on social media and just sort of form a support group, and help each other through this hard time.
I just want to say ditto to what Ms. Boatwright said. I couldn't say it any better, but please share that with everybody that we really do appreciate what you're doing very, very much. It's tough. You're right. The shelves are empty. And I can't even imagine knowing that and saying, but I still have to feed 20,000 kids. So thank you.
Thank you.
The other thing that hasn't been mentioned is the cost of everything in terms of food is just skyrocketed.
It's
Yeah.
not to mention the packaging
Yeah.
on top of that.
Food costs are
It's
incredible
off the
now.
charts.
Yeah.
And it's not gonna get any better anytime soon, we're told, for the industry professionals.
Mr. Smith?
I definitely do hear what you're saying. I definitely appreciate all the hard work that you're doing. And, you know, it's just concerning when you get, when you go someplace and you're a school board member and someone comes to you and tell you and show you a picture of food. You know, sometimes also food comes from when you, how you make it, is you put your love in it. So you can still make a barbecue sandwich and still make the presentation look good and still taste good. I think presentation is everything. Because to the way how you got dressed today, it look very nice. So just keep in mind when we said, you know, it's just a barbecue sandwich, that, you know, to some kid that may be their only meals. And that's some of the community that I serve. Some of the school lunches are their only meals, so when they go there and they get that, then parents may attend and handle it differently, and they may not want to say that I can't afford those school lunches is what helped me and my family do. So, you know, I just want to put that out there for telling you that we do appreciate your services, but you know, just you know, be mindful that, you know, everyone has their different ways of in life of how they handle things. And it's obvious it's meant to be taken personal. That's just everyone have different places where they go and they make their voices heard. Some people make their voices heard at church. Some people make their voices heard at the meeting. Some people go to social media. Some people may go to their friends. So unfortunately, to some people who are working, you know, you might want to let them know that that's just where they go to let their voices be heard. I mean, but I'm sure there's no ill will or intent. Maybe there's a grasp of concern, and that's how they're expressing their concern. I just wanted to know that that's just how they're expressing their concern. So there's no ill will there. But I have parents that have not known about the shortage in terms of services. But you know, I will express it to them, but I told them that I knew that y'all work hard, especially when we have reference here or different things here, how y'all serve us. So when we go to certain activities and the students are there, also next to our is there serving the staff. So you know, I've been involved, and I've had parents involved me too, but you know, I have to step back and have to relook at it and think, you know what, that could be their child, you know, so that could be, you know, their first day at the time. So I couldn't take it personal. And I had to you know, one time I had to call parents and apologize to her about it. And she was showing me how Columbia school was and how this was, you know, so I can, you know, so I just a little food for thought. And we do appreciate y'all, but I just want to put that out there. And thank you. And about how much do you know, how much do you start off? You were saying that there's a monetary that you get a summer bonus if you tell someone about it. I just want to see how much my bonus will be. How much is the bonus?
The incentive for new hiring is 400, and the incentive for referral is 100.
Okay, it's 400 per person that the bonus. You tell about it?
A new hire.
New hire.
Okay, right. So new hire is 100.
No.
And if I may,
I'm sorry, I just want to clarify, because whatever we say here is going to go out there. Okay, so we want it right. So my understanding, Mr. Smith, a new hire, it's a $400 bonus. Is that right?
Correct.
In addition, okay, if somebody refers a new hire and they get hired, the person who referred that individual gets $100. Is that right? Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'll make sure we're all.
And about what's the starting salary for that person?
It depends on your experience, but the minimum entry is right at $10 an hour, $10.50 an hour.
$10.50 an hour.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
So I just want to say one more thing, if that's okay with you guys. So, okay. So when you were talking about the kids, this is the only meal they get. So I've been in the restaurant business 43 years now. Started when I was 12 and a half, here in Beaufort, South Carolina, at the Western Citizens Steakhouse. You know the reason why? I was one of those kids. So I just want to know you that the passion and the reason why I got into this business was because I wanted to make sure that I didn't go hungry again and that the other kids did not. So I have a heart for this and I have the passion for it. And so that's one of the reasons why I actually came to Beaufort, back to Beaufort, is because I wanted to be part of this team and provide food to the kids that need it.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. Now, next item on the agenda is the COVID update. And on the COVID update, with respect to last week, for everyone to know, our numbers remain low, which is obviously good. We reported last week in our school system, 0 positive staff members, 5 quarantined staff members, 3 positive students, 67 quarantined students. Dr. Watts, that concludes my presentation for today. I had another item that I did want to speak with, but it's not on the agenda, so I will add it to the agenda for the next meeting. And I think it'll be a great student achievement conversation.
Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is board business action. You need a motion for the donation.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Guyer.
I move that we accept the donation from the Battery Creek High School Athletic Booster Club for the value, approximate value of $340,000 to purchase a video scoreboard for Dalton Stadium.
Ms. Boatright.
Second.
Right, and Ms. Middleton.
Okay. I'll give it to Angela. I've already had one.
Right, Mr. Stringer.
This is great. I thought this was going to be tied to Whale Ridge.
I'm going to ask is Pastor Vince on as well to speak about his work around that. I'm looking at my computer screen. Sorry about that.
Sorry, we just walked in. What's the question or comment?
The question, Pastor Vince, was around, I thought that this was going to be tied to Whale Branch, I think was the conversation. So I asked you to speak about your work around that.
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you, Dr. Rodriguez. Yes, our partnership on the video scoreboards, or we would even call them a jumbotron, is directly linked with Whale Branch. Our fundraising efforts have just escalated at Battery Creek. We had already invested probably the last 3 or 4 years preparing and dreaming about this potentially happening. So we already had community partners, we had alumni, we had just a number of sponsors and partners through the school waiting for the decision of the board, I guess a little over 8 weeks ago now, that you gave us the go-ahead to go out and raise funds. And Battery Creek's funds, so the well was already primed, so to speak. The funds came in and we've reached our goal to purchase the video school. Whale Branch, we're just really beginning to get that effort moving. We have about 20% raised for Whale Branch already. But we are committed to it. We're one team, we're one family who's going to achieve that goal as well. Their timeline is just going to take a little bit longer, but we're committed to making that happen. Hope that can answer the question.
Mr. Mel. Mr. Mel Campbell.
How does this amount relate to the original numbers that I thought it was $150,000.
Would you like me to
Yeah.
answer that? Well, that's, I was hoping it would be in that ballpark as well, sir. But once we got the quotations and once the reality set in with the district overseeing the project, a number of costs and areas went up. And that's just the nature of the business. I was looking at purely from an outside, kind of independent group purchasing the scoreboard. But once we have to kind of weave it into our referendum construction project, which is really smart. And that's why we chose the timing of this. It's going to happen as our fields and our athletic complexes are going to be rebuilt. But we know it's wise to use the contractor that works for the electrical contractor. We weren't planning on the cost to be that high, but it's still wise to use them. They're already there and they're working on the infrastructure now. So for instance, I was planning 30,000 for the underground electrical conduit. It actually is 78,000 because we're using the district's electrical contractor, which we need to, but I wasn't prepared for that cost. And that happened in a few other areas. So it drove the cost up. And we had to get busier raising funds because we weren't planning to be 340,000.
That leads to a future question. I thought Mr. Allen was supposed to look at what it would possibly cost us as a district.
Mr. Otting, I know Mr. Otting and his team met and worked with Dr. Vince on that as well. So,
And before Mr. Outing speaks, I will say that's a great question, but this doesn't cost the district anything. We've raised the funds. The district just helped us come up with the proper quotation and to be able to use the district contractors for all the right reasons.
You answered for him already.
Yeah. But
So you need me still?
No, I don't need you.
Okay.
If that's the answer, you would be accountable for that answer.
I mean, the only thing I would say is that it isn't as much the contractor cost difference as it is just the requirements that we're under from OSF and other things. What our standards are a little bit higher than what you might find at other locations. And the standards that we're required to follow. It's a public, because it's a public, we're a public use as compared to just a commercial or other use.
Ms. Bowe?
Well stated, thank you.
Congratulations, that's quite an impressive fundraising achievement. And if this is not appropriate, Madam Chair, you can email me, but if people want to make a contribution to your ongoing efforts for Whale Branch, is there a website, a Facebook page, a person to contact? Because after you all left last time, I didn't know how to get a hold of anybody. So would it be appropriate or should you email it to me?
No, he can answer that publicly.
Well, and I'm here representing the Battery Creek Booster Club. Now, at Well Branch, it would be Coach K would be the one to contact, the athletic director at Well Branch.
Thank you.
So the other question that the public needs to hear the answer to is the maintenance. Who is doing the maintenance and who is paying for the maintenance?
Great question.
So we knew that was a question or concern of the board from last time. A lot of the question was about electrical costs and things of that nature. We did look into the electrical costs and they're actually negligible. The cost of an LED, because this is an LED scoreboard, just the cost of this scoreboard is very similar to the cost of our existing scoreboard, quite honestly. There's really no difference in cost. Maintenance wise, there is an inspection done, I believe once a year that's required. It's about $400, $500, and that's into the cost of the scoreboard itself.
And then I remember you mentioned before, and please say it again, how long does this scoreboard typically, what's the lifespan of this scoreboard?
I believe, I'll let you, I think it's 10.
Hi, I'm Sarah Hayes. I'm the athletic director at Battery Creek High School. So it will run, the lifespan will be about 10 years, 10 to 13 years for the school that we have that we're putting up or like to put up.
Thank you. Mr. Smith?
Yes, just to add a little bit more information, because we don't want this to cost the district anything. Now, the maintenance or future replacement. So our plan with our fundraising team and our team from the school, we have currently raised $20,500 towards a maintenance plan. Now, granted, the first 5 years is under warranty. So after that is when we would expect some kind of maintenance cost to incur. In addition, we have sold a number of marketing and advertising packages from business sponsors, local businesses, community partners, alumni, and future, now that we got the money to purchase it, any future packages, we are putting 10% of any future ad packages sold into a separate savings account for replacement. So I think we're going to be in a good position to replace it in 10 to 12 years. And we have a maintenance plan in place as well. And I have copies of those packages that we have been out presenting to business owners and community partners if you'd like to see it. This is put together from Daktronics. They give us a marketing professional presentation to give to folks, and our partners have really jumped on board. As you can see, we got there in about 8 weeks and 4 days.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
First, I'd like to commend you for doing this, but within in the same breath, I'm just a little concerned that when you first bought this, that it was you and Battery Creek, I mean, you and Well Branch together. I'm just trying to understand, was it when it first came up, was it a together partnership? What changed and how did these, was it originally that the part of that there were two different pots of money that would bring this project forward, or could you just, what was the original process?
Yeah,
that's. But I mean, I just don't want to go committee and I'm opposed to that question and voting on that, and I don't have that background, and you know that's kind of concerning.
The best way I can answer you is it has always been a partnership from the beginning. I think with our referendum construction, it motivated us to move a little quicker, knowing we're under construction now, and we needed to be ready and purchase it actually before Thanksgiving to have it in before next school year. So there was an incentive for us, not to diminish, they have the same incentive, but I think with their new field recently being put in, their other scoreboard that they have now. And I think they wanted to see how we did this and kind of follow our model. And I will tell you, we're committed to achieving it together. I would just ask that the proof that we did this here, that you would trust that between Battery Creek and Well Branch, we're going to achieve the goal for them as well. And I just will repeat, we have about $50,000 of theirs ordered. Now, they haven't decided on which board they want. It could be something cheaper and smaller. I don't know. That's between Coach Cave and the principal and their booster club. But we're committed to whatever number they get to. We're gonna raise it together. And I feel like we can achieve the goal. We have both incredible communities that support their schools. I hope that helps. It did evolve a little bit as we really felt like it was going to become a reality. For us, it just happened quicker.
And this funding is coming from the Booster Club, is that correct?
Yes. The money we are giving to the district to purchase the board is from the Battery Creek Booster Club. And the donations were given by local businesses, community partners, and at least 7 classes of Battery Creek graduates pulled money through Facebook and other ways and gave the money. Yeah. And we've sold, if you see on the screen or on your computer, you see our board. We have all 4 anchor partners taken care of. And an anchor partner has to pay $50,000. So those 4 are full.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Vote is open.
Oh, right, yes.
Middleton, yes.
Yes.
Oh, which Campbell?
Yes.
Goodrich, yes.
Claude, yes.
Rubin, yes.
Smith, yes.
Well, congratulations. Motion was approved unanimously, and the Board of Education thanks your, all of your donors, however small or however great. It was wonderful that you were able to raise this money in such a short length of time. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
But I will be looking forward to you coming back with the other presentation and also approving that one as well. I will be looking forward to having that conversation with you as well. Thank you.
If I can add, Daktronics is gonna come to Battery Creek on November 18th at 10 a.m. So if anybody wants to come and view a demo trailer of what the board is gonna look like, you're definitely all welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, next we have the consent agenda, and the consent agenda tonight contains the approval of the meeting minutes, the 3 listed there, as well as OE 15. Do we have a motion to approve? Mr. Smith? Are you going to make a motion to approve the consent agenda items, sir?
That's fine.
Go ahead and make the motion, please.
He said so.
He said so.
You can't.
I'm kidding now.
All right, Mr. Smith? You can just say, I move that we accept the consent agenda items.
I move that we accept the minutes from the October 19th. I move that we accept the minutes from October 19th, 2001. I move that we accept the work session minutes from October 22nd, 2001. I move that we accept the special call meeting minutes of October 28th, special call meeting executive session. And I move that we accept OE 8.6, Madam Chair, at this time. Thank you.
No, sir, just say the consent agenda items because they don't contain 8.6. Remember, it's OE 15, you took that off.
Okay, okay.
So you don't have to list them, you just say the consent agenda items. We
Well,
don't
I'm
accept
gonna
those.
do them all, that's all. But I move that we accept the consent agenda items, that's why I was gonna do them all.
Okay, thank you. All right, second?
Second.
Okay, Ms. Robine? Voting is open?
Middleton, yes.
Claude, yes.
Yes. Yes.
Rubin, yes.
Vote right, yes. Vote right, yes.
Goodrich, yes.
Shriver, yes.
Oh, Smith, yes, fine.
The consent agenda items are approved unanimously. Mr. Smith and Ms. Robine, please put their hands down.
I have something for the next.
Okay. Future agenda topics, Ms. Robine?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd like to request that we revisit our meeting format policy. We're operating on a motion that was made that we would mimic our schools, and we're now in face-to-face only. So I'd like to revisit that.
No.
Oh, wait, can I make one? I was.
Slow, yeah, I see that.
Okay, I just would like to have, on the agenda items, our process for vetting volunteers in the schools, because there's been a few glitches.
You don't have to go into detail, just.
I want to know, I just.
Got it. Okay, we're trying to move along.
I know.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Dr. Rodriguez, do you have any announcements?
No, ma'am, not at this time.
Okay, we do have a second public comment. Robin?
Hello, David. I'm calling you for public comments. Put you on speakerphone. Hello, David. I'm calling you for public comments. Put you on speakerphone. If you can. All right. No comments.
All right, so we. Before we adjourn. Power through. All right, before we adjourn, the board needs to go back into executive session. Before we adjourn, the board needs to go back into executive session. It's the unfinished item. All right, we'll take a 5-minute break. All right, we'll take a 5-minute break.
5 minutes.
Disaster planning consists of 3 simple steps. Make a plan, build a kit, stay informed. Every family should have a plan for how they will communicate during an emergency and where they will meet if separated. Having basic emergency supplies on hand will keep you alive during a disaster. Monitor local radio stations for important information and updates. Visit bcso.net for more information.
Cars all over Beaufort County are being targeted by thieves. We want to remind you not to leave valuables in your car and to keep your doors locked. If you have any information about recent thefts, please contact the Beaufort County Sheriff's Office or Crime Stoppers.
The Beaufort County Board of Education business meeting of November 2nd, 2021. The board just came out of the executive session and we are now back in public session. And do we have any action as necessary or appropriate regarding matters discussed in the executive session?
Madam Chair, I have two items. I move that we approve the superintendent's recommendations for employment listed on October 1st to October 31st, 2021 personnel ratification report.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Catherine Grovine, second motion made by Mr. Sirvinger. There being no hands up, voting is open.
Middleton, yes.
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 Is that unanimous for everyone?
No.
Okay. And Will is no. Everyone else is yes.
Oh, right, yes.
Got it.
Okay, so the personnel ratification report of October 2021 is approved. 9-1. Excuse me, the one no is Mr. William Smith. Do we have any further actions necessary or appropriate coming out of the executive session?
Yes, Madam Chair. I move we approve the superintendent's recommendation for the monthly adult education homeschool report for October 2021.
Okay, Ms. Boatright,
Why did I have my hand up? I know. I'm sorry.
yeah. And there being no hands up, voting is open. Wise, yes.
Vote right, yes.
Robust, yes.
Middleton, yes.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Everyone, yes.
Yep.
Yes.
The superintendent's recommendation for the monthly adult education homeschool report for October 2021 was also approved unanimously. So we have a motion to adjourn by unanimous consent. Yeah, any opposed? No nays? We are adjourned. Good night.
The County Channel is also available on video on demand. Go to BeaufortCountySC.gov, scroll down to Public Meetings, click Watch Now, and then click the Video on Demand button and select your program from the list.
Call the meeting to order.
If you'd like a DVD of this program, click on the link on the right and fill out the order form. And thank you for watching the County Channel.
The county is one of the oldest forms of local government in the United States. Early settlers from England brought the tradition of county government to America. Today, more than 3,000 county governments provide services that affect almost every citizen's life. South Carolina's 46 counties are very representative of how county government has evolved nationally. The county unit in South Carolina was regarded as a local extension of state government. But a state constitutional reform movement in the early 1970s led to the South Carolina General Assembly passing the Local Government Law, also known as the Home Rule Act, in 1975. The Home Rule Act greatly expanded county authority and changed the nature of county organization and administration to what we know today. Beaufort County went from having a board of directors to a county council. Members of the 1975 council included Chairman Arthur Horn, Vice Chairman Grady Thames, Leroy Brown, Gary Fordham, William Grant, Harriet Kaiserling, David Jones, Bill McBride, and Booker Washington. As the new council sought to distinguish itself, council members desired an official symbol that would represent the jurisdiction's identity and unique character. Council appointed an ad hoc committee to undertake the task and carry out a contest for the best county seal design.
Harriet Kaislin was a member of County Council, and it was her idea because we didn't have anything that could significantly identify our beautiful Beaufort County. We met then up at I think it was the Carolina Bank, and some years ago back there on West Street, and then we put them in piles, you know, like good, bad, maybe, until we finally got it down to the one that we now use.
County Council approved the seal committee's recommendation, which reflected the county's history, traditions, and natural beauty. The seal's colors of blue and green represent the colors of the county's outdoor environment, with its many waterways, marshlands, and maritime forests. The 5 images within the seal depict some of the county's distinguishing features: ancient live oak trees, the seafood industry, rich natural resources and a rare marine ecology, low-country architecture, and miles of rivers, creeks, and inlets.
I was really impressed. I thought it encompassed what we as a body were looking for. A seal that would, when you looked at it and just thought about it a little bit, it really covers the aspects of Beaufort County. So he did a good job of bringing together the things that we hold so dear and what we really like about Beaufort County.
Councilman Bill McBride was in office when the contest was held and was present when the committee revealed the winning design.
I think council was ecstatic about it. We thought that the symbols on the seal represented aspects of life in Beaufort County. There is a slight change in the original draft that was presented to us, where you have the shrimp boat today. Initially that was a pleasure craft, a sailboat, yacht type boat, and it was changed by county council because we felt that the shrimp boat was a better representation of a more comprehensive aspect of Beaufort County life, because you had other things on the seal that represent the pleasure and recreation, the fishing and the beach. So they thought the shrimp boat, which was a very important part of Beaufort County culture, shrimping, especially at that time, would be reflected on the seal.
The winner of the contest was an artist from Hilton Head Island, the late Lee Payne, whose design was selected from more than 126 entries submitted from as far away as Indiana and Tennessee. He was awarded $250 for his design, but more importantly, he captured the legacy of outdoor beauty, culture, and history that helped to define important aspects of life in Beaufort County.
To see more Beaufort County moments, go to the Beaufort County Library homepage and click on the Local History tab.
Spreading school spirit or excelling in the classroom, Hilton Head Island High School's Caroline Mayers is not allowing Down syndrome to stand in her way. The student-athlete was recently inducted into the school's National Honor Society.
It's amazing, and I feel happy for myself, and I feel accomplished what I'm doing and get high grades I thought would be, and I feel like more happy, and that just makes everything all better.
Caroline's teachers and family are proud of her academic accomplishments.
From the day she was born, her father and I decided we're going to treat her no differently. We're going to set the bar the same level that we do for our other children for her, and if we have to adjust it for some reason or the other, we'll adjust it. But we're not going to start low and try to work high. We're going to aim high and then adjust accordingly. And so all our other children have a 4-year education. We felt Caroline should have that opportunity too. And if we had to adjust, we would, but we wanted her to start off with the idea she was going to have a 4-year education.
She cares about her school. She cares about school spirit. She cares about other students. She's funny. She asks things about my life. She is just a very genuine person, and it's very rare to meet someone like Caroline.
When Caroline's not studying, she's cheering at athletic events or competing in cheer competitions.
To be a great Seahawks cheerleader, to be school spirit, and to support all the cheerleaders on the field and on the mat.
So at first I put her on the JV sideline team, and then I realized as she was doing more, she is so capable of so much more. Her ability over a disability, she started picking up on choreography, learning how to stunt, so we placed her on the JV competition team.
Caroline plans to go to college, but for now, she's enjoying being a member of Seahawk Nation.
I want to be a web planner and videography. I love my teachers because teachers are really most important to me. I had tons of teachers I know, and I'm glad to be in the school, to be in Seahawk, and support of the school out there because school spirit, and they do all football, so it's kind of fun.
Whatever Caroline decides to do in the future, her teachers and family know she'll be successful.
What she has given me and given to the people around her are these immeasurable gifts that we'll spend the rest of our lives reaping the benefits from. I think she's a tremendous individual who has not yet begun to show us who she can be.
You really can't just say that someone has this much potential. She has so much more to go, and I don't want to be the person to say this is all she can do. I want to be the person behind her that believes in her.
Caroline's family also has a website, CarolineAndFriends.com. It helps educate the public about Down syndrome. At Hilton Head Island High School, Ron Lopes, Beaufort County School District.
What people think about the Hilton Head Humane Association is very interesting, because if you ask them, tell me what you do, most of them will say, well, you take in dogs and cats and adopt them out.
Well, they definitely see us as we are, which is a safe haven for the stray and abandoned and abused dogs and cats of the Low Country.
Until 2012, they would have been spot on. As you look at us in 2012, we have three distinct elements to our organization. We have the core, our shelter. We have our spay-neuter clinic. And we have our litter box thrift store. A couple years ago, our board got together, looked at the future of the Humane Association, and said that there's always going to be a never-ending supply of dogs and cats unless we actively do something about it. So we inserted into our strategy the idea of becoming proactive in spay-neuter. With the merger with SNAC at the end of 2011, it put us into a great position to put our mission into action.
In January of 2012, we were fortunate enough to become folded into the Hilton Head Humane Association family. We are now part of the Hilton Head Humane Association, and couldn't be happier.
When you look at what we've been able to learn and accomplish at SNAC, let's just look at the past month. We spay-neutered approximately 600 dogs and cats. But along with that, we helped almost 100 people that couldn't afford to get it done. I think that's a very important contribution we've been able to make, thanks to the people that support us.
Everybody loves the litter box, and people who've not been to the litter box need to go and fall in love with it, because it is a high energy, very fun, always welcoming environment of wonderful products, of wonderful people serving you there.
I love this place. I love this place. I come in here and get good bargains. You find all sorts of goodies here. Anything that you're looking for your house or for your family, you'll find it here.
We started the litter box a few years ago as a very small thrift store, primarily to help with our feral cat program. It has grown to over 15,000 square feet in its location on Old Wild Horse Road. We have a great team of volunteers.
We love to see the little kids come in, and we love to see the families come in and buy things, and we appreciate all of the wonderful donations that we get.
Really positive reaction. People are usually impressed by how big the store is. They don't expect it to be this size.
And the beauty of the litter box truly is that it's also a network for the animals. So they display pictures of the animals, they talk about the animals, they promote the animals. So the litter box not only helps us assist the animals over at the shelter and families in need and all of our programs that we rely on the litter box for, but they also now are becoming great adoption facilitators. So there's not a better place to spend money than at the litter box because you get way more for your investment. Not only do you walk out with something that's fabulous, but you've just saved a life as well.
Even though things have changed over the years, the one thing that stays the same is the end result of our providing homes and care for the animals is finding the right home for them to end up in.
He's brought us a lot of joy. He's like having another child in the house. And he's very calming for Joe. He keeps me very busy. He's very playful. He's very lovable.
And he's absolutely grateful for everything you do for him. You bring him a bowl of kibble food in the morning and he stands up on his hind legs, he dances for joy. Unlike kids, we have children and grandchildren, I must say. He is the most grateful, unconditional friend you can have. He's so happy for everything.
I like big dogs. And she said, "Oh, are you the one that called about the Doberman?" And I said, "You have a Doberman?" And I said, "I want to see it." So she went and she got it. And the minute he walked out the door, I could see I loved him. But he came and he honestly stood beside me and leaned against me and looked up at me with those big brown eyes, and I looked down, and that was it. I wanted him. He has made me the happiest woman around. You know, I'm lonely. Not that I don't have children, and they do come see me. They're wonderful to me. I have 5 children and 14 grandchildren, and they like to come see me too, but that's not for every day. This guy sleeps with me, and he is he's just my best friend. I talk to him, and he really understands almost everything I say. There wasn't any that I was interested. After I saw him, what could I do but take him? Right. That's what we could do.
With the merger with SNAC at the end of 2011, it put us into a great position to put our mission into action. 2 parts. 1, never forget to take care of homeless dogs and cats. Treat them medically and find them great homes. But at the same time, make certain that we cut down on the number of unwanted animals reproduced. The one thing that I'd like to emphasize is we, as an association, get absolutely no public funding. All our revenue comes from the generosity of the community and the litter box. So without those 2 elements, we wouldn't be able to do anything. And we thank you.